way you can watch it back as well there on YouTube. But YouTube should be going. So what was your question there? Let me just make sure that I heard it right. What was your question?
Yeah, you're fine, bud. So what I was asking is, do you believe that Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan ever existed?
So for Genghis Khan, I don't know enough about him to really be able to say anything. I have never really looked into him. But as far as Alexander the Great goes, yes,
Why do you believe that Alexander the Great existed?
because we have contemporary evidence for him.
Do you know how many manuscripts are written on Alexander the Great?
I didn't say anything about manuscripts.
So that what evidence do you have that explains Alexander the Great
A
existed?
contemporary evidence like the tablets that were able to date during his lifetime, known as the Babylonian Astronomical Diary.
So when it comes to the actual diaries, anything that is written, including even statues and paintings, wall paintings, because they did a lot of that within the Greek and the Roman culture.
Okay.
It still has less documentation.
What do you mean less documentation? The item itself is the documentation. Do you
Exactly.
need a document that says that the item exists or something?
So documentation can be anything that can be written, anything that can be
Right.
painted,
Yeah, so
anything that can be related to evidence.
documentation wouldn't need to exist for an item that we have that doesn't make any sense. So like why would there need to be documentation of that? We
Well,
have the item.
documentation of that. Exactly. That's documentation. The item in itself presents documentation. It's evident. It's
Oh, you're saying,
there.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because it sounded like you
So
were talking about manuscripts, which would be like papyri or something. But we don't need
no,
any
even
like manuscripts that talk about an item if we have the item.
well, there's actually, I think there's more when it comes to actually written than there would be of paintings, not as much as statues,
More
but
written.
moral to the conversation
Uh-huh.
is that when you compare Alexander the Great on things
Yes.
that are within the world that are
Like,
that
okay.
can be proven
Yeah,
to
like an item or something.
prove his exist,
Yeah,
yeah,
like a
that can
contemporary
prove
item.
his
Yeah.
exist. Keep over talking me, dude.
No. I'm just trying to make sure that
There's
I'm following you
over
here.
there's over 20,000 that proves of Jesus. Can't really speak too much about Paul. So
So there's
at the end of the day,
20,000 what? 20,000 what?
so manuscripts, statues, paintings, wall
There's
carvings,
how many of
and
those are
it's not just
statues and
from.
things that we can date to the time period he was alive, like contemporary of him?
Do you know how many statues are of Alexander the Great?
No, I didn't say anything about statues.
Exactly. So
I didn't
so
mention
but you
statues.
still but still
No, you were the
you
first one to say the
believe
word statue.
Alexander the Great based upon the same
Contemporary
things
evidence. Yeah.
that is based upon Jesus Christ. And
No.
Jesus
What
Christ
was the
has
contemporary
more.
evidence you had for Jesus?
At the end of the day, bud,
Yeah. So you
if you
asked me
don't
why I
believe
believe
in
that Alexander the
something,
Great
if
existed, and I
you
said contemporary
there's
evidence. What was the
less
Okay.
contemporary
Toro.
evidence of
Toro.
exact Alexander
Toro.
the Great.
Toro.
You keep over
Could you please?
talking me.
Yes, you are now muted because I'm asking you questions and you won't answer them. What is the contemporary
You
evidence that we
stupid
have
bitch. You
of
keep over
Jesus?
talking me.
Yeah, correct. What is the
Yeah,
contemporary
I know,
evidence you
correct.
have of Jesus?
You keep over talking.
Sweet, you're muted. What evidence do we have for Jesus that is from the same time that he was alive? Go ahead, please present it. What evidence do we have? Because the oldest manuscript we have goes to the 3rd century. So I don't know what you're talking about that would go to the time of Jesus. You can unmute, but just answer the question. You're trying to compare contemporary evidence to something that's not contemporary and trying to say that it's just as good. No, it's not. Like, demonstrably not. So, I mean, you can answer the question, but I don't think you're going to have an answer for it. You're muted at the moment. You got to unmute. I'm just waiting for an answer for contemporary evidence for Jesus. He's still here. He's just sitting on mute. Here, I'll send you an invite to unmute. Just click the button. Okay. What is the contemporary evidence? You said there's 20,000 things. What of those are contemporary to Jesus?
I want a Tic Tacs for idiots. At the end of the day, but it really doesn't
So
matter.
you
made
haven't
your
been
mind
able
up.
to answer anything?
I
Why don't you
honestly,
go
I
take
don't
care of
even
your
care.
kids? You're a terrible
All
father.
black people are guilty.
Anyways, and yeah, I heard that at the end. She's a terrible mother too. That being said, if anybody has any evidence for Jesus or Paul, come on up. Come on up. Very clearly, the last guy didn't have anything, but I'm sure that we can find something. I'm sure that we can find someone. And by the way, welcome in everybody over there on YouTube as well. If you have any evidence for Jesus or Paul, you can either click the link that's in the chat, and you can come up on TikTok. TikTok is how I take guests. I understand that it's TikTok and stuff like that. I mean, as that very racist piece of shit mother tried to say earlier, TikTok is for idiots, which is why her husband, I guess, was on it and trying to make an idiotic claim on it. But that being said, some people don't like TikTok, so you can send a super chat if you like. That's perfectly fine. If you send a super chat, I will read it out loud and I will respond to it. Like the $4.99 there from a Lope Note that says, sorry, I'm cheating on your show watching the live stream Charlie Kirk trial. Oh, there's a trial of it? Oh, of the guy or whatever? I don't even remember the guy's name. Was it Brendan or something? No, I don't remember the guy's name. I can't remember that guy's name. But anyways, welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. We've got someone. Oh, I like how it flows into the word chosen there with the ABC. That's pretty cool. But AB chosen 14, is that how you do
Yo.
that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on?
Yeah, not a lot. What you got, man?
So there's a lot of things throughout history showing that like Jesus existed.
Okay.
And one thing that came out recently is that they found like this cloth in Jesus' burial, and some scientists paid for that not to get put out. But
Are you
it
talking
shows
about the Shroud of Turin that we've known about since the 1300s?
yeah, that's been hidden for a long time.
What? No, it hasn't. It's called the Shroud of Turin because it's in Turin on display, and it's been there for hundreds of years. What are you talking about?
There's that. There's multiple prophecies.
No,
in the
I
Old
want you to
Testament.
explain, how did they hide that? In fact, it's known as the Shroud of Turin, even though it was found in... No, listen.
I'm listening.
It's found in Lire, France in the 1300s, but we don't call it the Shroud of Lire because it was moved to Turin shortly after that, and it's been on display for a very long time. So what are you talking about?
At, though?
In Turin, Italy. That's why it's called the Shroud of Turin, even though it was found in France.
I ain't never seen that, brother.
You've never seen what?
What you talk about? I've never seen it
The
being
Shroud
displayed.
of Turin? You've never seen that?
Nah, I'm gonna have to do my research though.
What do you mean do your research? Then if you haven't done your research, how do you even know what you're talking about?
Because
what is the sheet that you're talking about? What's it called?
That's what I'm. See, I don't
What is it
even
called?
know. I just see. I don't know.
You
Anyway,
don't know, but you brought it up as evidence. You have no idea what it's even called, and
it has Jesus's whole body on it though.
Yeah, it's called the Shroud of Turin.
Okay,
that's what it
okay.
is. No. Listen,
Okay,
listen.
That's
I know
evidence that Jesus was real.
No, it's not. It's artwork
How is
from
it not?
because it's artwork from the 1300s from France. That's all that it is. You fell for it and then didn't know what it was
said
called, and then
artwork?
thought, yes.
No, brother.
Do you know what artwork
How is there
means?
blood on it then? How is there
Artwork-
blood on it?
Because no one has ever made artwork with blood on it before. Is that
No
how that
one
works?
has. So how is there dry blood from the hands to the feet to wherever he was?
No
you
one
know
has
what I'm
ever
saying,
painted a picture with
crucified
blood
at?
before. That's never been done before. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying
cool.
how is the
So,
blood?
are you not aware that a Catholic person in the 1300s would be of the belief that Jesus would have bled on the cross, and if they're going to make artwork, they would utilize blood to make it? Why wouldn't
How is
they?
that artwork if it's from the tomb though?
It's not.
How
It's
do you
not
know
from
that?
the tomb because the first time we get it is in Lire, France. How did it get to France?
Because it was hidden though. It was
From-
hidden for
from who?
years.
From-
From the whole public.
by who?
There's scientists that try to disprove the
Scientists wouldn't exist
No,
in like the
scientists-
first century to hide it. What are you talking about?
Bible. Bro, The
No,
Romans,
what?
the
What?
Romans,
The Roman
you know how
scientists,
many times the Romans try to hide Jesus' death?
and
They
they
try to
took it to
say
France.
they try to say that Jesus' body was
So, are
stolen.
you saying the
If Jesus
Romans had
never
a
existed,
shroud? The Romans had a shroud that had Jesus' image on it and didn't destroy it. They just took it to France.
but look, this is what I'm saying though. This is what I'm saying. If Jesus,
Yeah.
if Jesus never existed,
Uh-huh.
how would the Romans have a tomb for Jesus?
Which tomb are you talking about? Because
The one
there's
that he riz
no,
from, and the stone was moved.
listen. Yeah, cool. So there are 5 tombs currently in the world that say that they are the tomb of Jesus. There are 3 in Jerusalem: the Talpiot tomb, the Garden tomb, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Depending on if you're Catholic or Protestant, you probably think the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the place he was buried, or the Garden tomb, respectively. The Talpiot tomb is just another one that is owned by a family whose last name is Talpiot. But that being said, which one? Because we haven't found any evidence of Jesus in any of those tombs. That wouldn't make a lot of sense.
How is there no evidence in the tombs?
Well, I mean, you think
In
that he
the in
came
the
out of the
tomb,
tomb.
I wouldn't say
What
tombs
evidence
because
would we have in there?
I don't know about the other ones, but I know about the true
Well, which
one
one
that
is
Jesus.
so? Which one is the true one? Is it the Talpiot tomb, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or the Garden tomb? Because are you Catholic, or are you more? Would you say more leaning Protestant?
See, I don't even go on down to the denominations. I just follow
Sweet. Do
Jesus.
you recognize the Pope as an authority for God?
I'm led by Christ. I'm not led by man.
Okay, so then you're not Catholic. See how easy that was. So
See, well, I was
that being said,
baptized Catholic.
sweet.
But
Well, you don't recognize the Pope anymore, so I don't know what to tell you. That being said, the Catholics actually have the tomb that goes back the furthest, with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre being identified as Jesus' tomb in the 4th
I know what
century.
denominations are, bro. I just said I don't follow that, bro.
So I
follow
haven't
Christ.
mentioned any denominations.
No, I'm reading the comments. My fault.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, in the 4th century, you had Constantine's mother that goes over to the Holy Land and decides to pick out a whole bunch of different things and claim it was from the Bible, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is what the Catholics think is Jesus' tomb. In the 19th century, the mid-19th century, is when they found the Garden tomb, and Protestants believe that that's where Jesus was buried. But I mean,
can I
okay.
ask what you believe in, though?
I believe that Jesus and Paul did not exist.
But like you don't believe in a God, you don't believe in
What does that have
anything?
to do with whether or not Jesus and Paul existed?
Because if you look at almost any religion, you could go to the Quran, not any religion, but you could go to the Quran, you could go, and I'm not saying they have the correct depiction of Jesus,
Okay.
but why would Jesus be in there? You know what I'm saying?
Because
If
it's an. Do you know when the Quran was written?
500 years after Jesus passed away.
At least, and considering the fact that the Roman Empire had in its entirety, its official religion was Christianity, almost 300 years before, like, the Quran is written, that means that pretty clearly they're based off of Christian ideas. They even utilize things like the parable of the 7 sleepers and the infancy gospel of Thomas, which is like 4th century Christian apocrypha. So it's an offshoot of Christianity. So of course it's going to mention Jesus.
But I'm saying I'm saying as a worldwide thing, why would Jesus be written down in so many different places if he never existed?
Because again, the Roman Empire, which is the most influential empire in history,
Who was trying to kill Jesus, by the way?
I mean, there's no evidence of that, but in the 4th century, they became Christian in 380. So, I mean, yeah. And once it dissolves, you have. Listen, please listen.
Okay,
Once
I'm
it
listening.
dissolves, you have places like countries that were part of it, like England, France, Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, and they go around and colonize the entire world. How else do you think that, like, South Americans, like the Inca and the Mayans and stuff like that, how else do they end up with the idea of Jesus? It's very clearly because people who used to be part of the Roman Empire, which became Christian in the 4th century, colonized them. That's how.
So what
that
about
works.
the Nigerians?
Also the same thing.
They're not close to Rome though. Rome never went to Nigeria. Africa.
Rome didn't go to Brazil. That doesn't make sense. I didn't
Exactly.
say that.
So how?
No, listen. I didn't say Rome went there. I said a country that was once part of the Roman Empire, which was Christian in the 4th century, ended up colonizing that area. So what you're talking about doesn't have anything to do with what I said.
So They basically went across the world and spread Christianity, is what you're saying, through every
Have you
single country.
never seen like literally every painting of like Christopher Columbus
So
landing somewhere?
if this is a worldwide thing, and people they have many eyewitnesses of this man, how do you not think this
Name an
is
eyewitness.
real? Eyewitness Matthew,
Okay.
John, Luke.
Where is the eyewitness testimony
Jude.
from Matthew? Also, Luke isn't
written
even a
down.
disciple, so that doesn't make any sense. Luke is a doctor who travels around with Paul, who also wasn't an eyewitness to Jesus. So try again. But where do we have anything
John
from
the
Matthew?
Baptist.
Sweet, we don't have anything from John the Baptist, and we don't have anything from Matthew. Where
What
do
you
you
mean
think
you
we
don't have
have?
anything
Where do you?
in the Bible?
Yeah,
the
sweet.
New
So what
Testament.
text says that it's from Matthew?
Well, I
What
don't have a text that says it's from Matthew, but
Okay, well then
is
how
that-
do we have any kind of eyewitness testimony from Matthew?
Bro, because Matthew wrote it down
Where?
in the New Testament, bro. These are
you talking about? Are
these
you talking about
these
like
weren't-
the Gospel of
these
Matthew? Is
weren't-
that what you're saying?
I'm saying Matthew himself didn't put that in the Bible, bro.
Okay, so then we don't have his testimony then.
But they were handwritten from Matthew, though.
Where does it say
These
that?
were historical documents that, bro. They're not just putting
So where
any
does it
random
say it's from
document in the
Matthew?
Bible, bro.
Where does it say it's from Matthew?
Matthew is the name of the person that's writing, bro. That's why they put
Where
it down
does it
as
say that in the
Matthew.
text?
Well, so they just why would they put some random person down and just say Matthew?
They don't
bro?
put
That doesn't
down
make
a random
sense.
person down. And nowhere in the text does it say the name of the author. We're taking a look at it here. This is the gospel known as Matthew,
Right.
chapter 1, verse 1. It never says anywhere in it that it's written by Matthew, which wouldn't even really make any sense because in all the other gospels, the character's name is Levi. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that it would be Matthew anyways.
Where was his name, Levi?
In literally all the other gospels. Have you never read the Bible?
I haven't read the New Testament. I'm still reading.
Oh, okay. Well, you're arguing for somebody who's
Why don't
only in
you
the New
think
Testament,
all
so good luck
exist?
with that.
Right. But I'm still learning, bro. I'm not saying I know everything, bro. Like I just know I just feel that Jesus is real because I witnessed
So it's
things
just
in my
like a
life.
feeling. Okay.
No, it's not just a feeling.
I mean, you literally just said you just feel like Jesus is real. That's literally the words
No,
that you
like
said.
okay,
Thank
you
you.
take everything I say so literally, but I have very
Yeah, well,
many
words mean words. I
spiritual-
understand that that's
I
hard
have-
for a Christian
I
to
have a lot of
understand, but
spiritual-
words mean words.
Right. But I have a lot of spiritual encounters that can only point to a higher power.
Yeah,
And-
I'm not talking about a higher power. I'm talking about whether or not
Right.
Jesus and Paul even
But the higher
existed.
power
So
was
you having a
revealed-
feeling today, or you having some kind of
Nah,
spiritual
bro, this
thing where
higher
Jesus
power
jerks you off
revealed
last week or
himself.
something like that, that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not Jesus existed 2,000 years ago. Because your spiritual
So
encounters
how-
happened
So
during your
how
lifetime.
do we base off what AD is in the time period
Do you even know what AD stands for?
after death?
Yeah, no, that's not
Anno
what it stands for.
Domini. That's
Okay.
what people try to say.
Sweet. So what do you think Anno Domini means?
I know that the year 0 AD is the year Jesus was born.
No, 0 didn't even exist. Congratulations, you're stupid in like 2 different subjects.
How, bro? What you mean 0 didn't? So it would just went straight to 1.
Yes.
So it just went straight to 1 then. I don't see, but how do we base off the year 2026? What is it 2026 from? Why don't we just go back and just say?
2026 from 1 AD. That's all that it is.
I'm just saying, why would time have two separate? Why would it be split up like that? BC
Because
and
a
AD.
Christian monk known as Dionysius Exiguus in the 500s first suggested that we start calculating based on when he believed Jesus was born. That's,
So why would the whole
We know
world
his name
take
and
that?
everything.
Why would the whole world take that under?
I don't know
what
how
I'm
to
saying?
tell you this, but Dionysius Exiguus in the 500s lived after Rome in the 380 made the official religion of the entire empire Christianity. And after that, what we have is we have the countries that were part of the Roman Empire colonizing just about the entire globe. So I don't know how to explain to you any other way that if Rome had a particular belief, that belief is going to affect just about everyone on the planet eventually. That's how that works.
See, but I'm saying like there's some people. So there's some tribes and some people that
A tribe that doesn't have any connection to like the outside world, they don't use 2026.
But I'm
That's
saying
dumb
not
as shit.
everybody just adopted what Rome told them to do, bro.
Yeah, at the sword or at the end of a gun. That's how that works.
See, but why are people in Nigeria dying for a cause If it's,
Why did people
you know what
die
I'm
on
saying?
9/11 for a cause? That's a dumb question.
That's not what I'm saying. You be cutting me off and shit before I could finish what
I
I'm
know
about to say.
because I know already that you're going to put your foot in your mouth, and I'd like for you to just close it and learn before actually opening up to just spew more drivel. That
No,
being
I'm
said,
just saying, why?
do you have any argument for Jesus or Paul 2,000 years ago? Because it sounds like you're just kind of talking about your fifis and stuff like that, or like
Nah, bro.
spiritual encounters that you've had where, again, Jesus
I
jerked
mean,
you off
there's
last week.
multiple
That's fine.
people. There's multiple eyewitnesses of Jesus, bro.
Great. You
We
haven't
have
named one that we
Nicodemus.
have any eyewitness testimony from.
Nicodemus.
What book do we have from Nicodemus? What text do we have with his eyewitness
Mm.
testimony?
Look it up for you.
Okay, yeah. Please find a text that we have that we know is from
Why don't
Nicodemus.
you believe Paul existed?
One at a time. A.B. Chosen is going to enlighten us with all these different texts that we have from
No,
Nicodemus.
answer his question. I'm trying to find it.
No, you're not going to pivot. You're not going to get off that easy. Please find us evidence of Nicodemus's testimony. Go ahead.
Got you, brother. Bro, you could cut back to me, bro. I'm looking it up on my computer right now.
You've got 15 seconds.
Shit, I'm scared. I gotta put my password in. Hold on. I wasn't prepared to do it. You having a good day, though, brother? I'm gonna pray for you.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah. By the way, your password was Jesus Dick Writer 69420. Try that all caps. That being said, thank you for coming up. We're going to move to somebody with wrinkles on their brain. What's going on, Troy Taylor 673? Your question was about Paul, I think. What'd you got? Oh, there you go.
Just wondering why you think he doesn't exist.
Paul?
Yeah. He's an author. There's books. There's, historical accounts.
You think we have historical accounts of Paul?
Yeah.
You think like we have historical evidence for Paul?
Yeah, other than the Bible. Yeah. Well, what's your
All right, everybody, you know what time it is.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Name me one person outside of Christianity who mentions Paul in antiquity.
In Roman records, I was just asking why you think he didn't exist.
Sweet. You said we have historical evidence for him. Name me one person outside of Christianity who mentions Paul. You keep muting yourself. You don't have to mute yourself. I can't hear you when you're muted. Obviously.
All right, I'll pass, man. I just wanted to know why you think he didn't exist.
Okay.
I don't have any.
We're gonna open this up really fast because it's important for you to realize this. Name me one Christian in antiquity who says they personally knew Paul. That we have a writing that we know is from this person who says, I knew Paul personally. Like, I was friends with him.
Well, none
I
of
talked to
them.
him. Okay. I want you to name me a Christian who says, I know someone who knew Paul personally.
Well, yeah, there's none of those.
Yeah. So we don't have historical evidence for Paul. There are no mentions of him outside of Christianity ever in the 1st or 2nd century. Just not even close. We don't have anything on this guy. In fact, the stories that we do have of him are very clearly lifted from other people's stories, like Josephus, whose autobiography was published in 99, which is considerably later than the supposed death of Paul, about 30-something years later, because Paul supposedly dies in like early 60s or something. The point is, Josephus's book, it records a shipwreck that he was in that was taking prisoners to Nero to appeal to Caesar, and it ends up getting wrecked, and the survivors end up on an island that Paul supposedly goes to. So Josephus is apparently on the same ship that Paul was on, which doesn't make any sense because it's later in his life, like post 60. So Paul couldn't have been on it if Paul is real. but they're very
Right.
clearly lifting these stories and placing it onto there. Now, of course, this is just something that's mentioned in Acts. Paul doesn't record any of this kind of stuff there in the Pauline epistles. Nowhere in the Paul epistles does it talk about his conversion. It never talks about these shipwrecks. It never talks about how he had a different name or how he specifically unalived Christians or anything like that. This is just biographical information that shows up in some very clearly false historical fiction book named Acts, like Acts of the Apostles. Hell, his conversion story, not only does Paul in Acts give two conflicting, like contradicting, like accounts of it, where the people who are with him either hear a voice and don't see the sound, hear a voice but don't see the light, or they see a light but they don't hear a sound. It conflicts. It contradicts there in the text. Also, the conversion story has Jesus quoting from Dionysus, the Greek god of wine that turned water into wine at parties. And he's quoting from a book called the Bacchae, which was written by Euripides in about 400 to 500 BCE. So, I mean, it's word for word quote. So it's very clear that this is not a real story in Acts. So I would say that the Paul that is presented in the New Testament absolutely did not exist.
Okay, where do you think the idea of him came from?
Marcionites. So the first time that the Pauline epistles are published is in roughly 144 in the first New Testament canon that is published by a man named Marcion and his followers. This is, like I said, in roughly about 144. Marcion is from Sinope, which is on the coast of the Black Sea. It's like Asia Minor area, like modern-day Turkey. And he is deemed a heretic later on because of his beliefs that, if I explained them to you, you'd be like, that sounds kind of Christian, but also really kooky. The point is, he is the first time, or his publication of the New Testament is the first time that anybody hears the phrase New Testament for a canon, the first time anybody gets a story of Jesus, and the first time anybody gets a story of Paul. And it's probably, Paul is probably just a placeholder that's like standing in for Marcion himself, because a lot of the concepts of Paul, like receiving the gospel through revelation and not actually knowing anybody, is found within Marcion's claims. So Paul, I guess you could say, is Marcion, but he's a 2nd century person, not a 1st century writer.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't looking to argue. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, but the main takeaway here is, while there are people who say, oh, Jesus definitely existed and stuff, like there's like non-Christian people, like say Bart Ehrman, non-religious scholar, who says Jesus definitely existed. His biggest claim, like his ace in the hole, his ace up his sleeve, all that kind of thing, is, hey, Paul in the Pauline epistles met James, the brother of Jesus. And you can't, and I'm going to quote Bart Ehrman. He says, Dr. Ehrman says, you can't have a brother and not exist. And that makes sense. If Paul says that he met an actual brother of Jesus, then that would be pretty on the nose for Jesus existing. However, Bart Ehrman has to take the church's word for it when they even say that Paul existed, because there's no evidence outside of the church. And he has to take someone writing in the 2nd century about him, because we don't have anybody in the church even writing in the 1st century about Paul. And on top of that, the earliest iteration, or the earliest versions of Paul's letters, don't mention James, the brother of Jesus. So there's a whole bunch of assumptions that even leading scholars have to make, and reliability they have to just put onto the early church fathers in order for Paul to even exist to do these things. So the whole story just kind of falls apart, which is why I'm talking about both Jesus and Paul and not just Jesus.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Were there any other questions or any points that you want to make really quick, or was that it?
No, I'm good, man. That's all I wanted to hear.
All right. That was Troy Taylor. I'd like to see some W's there in the chat. He was a good sport there. But that being said, hard mode is what you were hearing there with the music and everything like that. That is what we do whenever somebody says there is evidence for Paul. Now, usually a lot of people are a little bit more feisty, if you will. That guy was actually fairly sincere, I would say. Yeah, I'd say he's pretty sincere. All right. We've now got Dan here, I think Dan, we got some other people as well. I'm going to accept everybody and see who all comes up. But I want to really quick get to some super chats. $1.99 from Elope Nope says, never mind, it's boring. Anyways, I heart the crash outs. All right, well, thanks for being here. And then $4.99 from Elope Nope again says, don't like the board. It reduces the chances of crash outs / engagements because they can't argue about it. They don't even know that they're going up on the board. They don't even know about it. Not yet, at least. Let's see. And then $5 from Cameron, I think Cameron, Vino Rosso says, I love that background music when somebody claims that they have proof about Paul. So cool. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you very much for the kind words, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the live. All right, so I tried to bring up as many people as possible here. Okay, Dan, I think you were up here first. Dan, what's going on, Dan? What you got?
Hey, so you actually kind of briefly touched on it,
Okay.
on that last guess at towards the very end, because I think that's kind of where I would start, which is I think the book of Galatians is probably the first place I would point to for evidence of Jesus, specifically when he talks about Galatians, yeah.
All right.
Or the letters from Paul, right? His letter to the Galatians, excuse me.
Yeah.
So when he's talking about, Paul's clearly, whether or not you believe Paul existed, we have contemporary writings of Jesus being mentioned within the first century. So I'm just curious, unless you wouldn't date it within the first century.
No, I would date the New Testament into the second century. What would be your evidence that anything about Jesus was from the first century?
Paul's letters? You're saying you don't believe that they're dated in the first century?
No, there's nothing in them that even dates them to the first century. In fact,
okay, so
there's stuff in there that dates it to either the second century or the first century BCE. So, nah.
Okay. So what would be your reasoning, I guess, for why you would date it for that?
Because it mentions second century concepts, and the first time we get it is in the second century. Nobody outside of Christianity mentions Paul, and the Christians don't even mention him until the second century. It's really odd that other people from Rome and everything like that also wouldn't mention him. I mean, hell, outside of Acts, he's only mentioned one time in the rest of the New Testament by other writers, and that is the text 2 Peter, which even Christian scholars acknowledge isn't written by the person who wrote 1 Peter. And on top of that, Acts 4:13 says that Peter was illiterate, so he didn't write it to begin with. So, I mean... it seems really weird that Paul, the most famous person who's bumping shoulders with Festus and Gallio and appealing to Caesar and is on these multiple shipwrecks and starting churches all over the place, writing these letters all over the place, he gets his capitated in the early 60s because he's so fucking famous, but no one mentions this guy. He even worked for the Pharisees, and no one within the Mishnah or the Talmud ever mentions some guy like that. It's bizarre.
Well, I'm not even arguing for Paul, right? I'm let's just say, I forget about Paul for a second.
I thought your question was whether or not they were in the first century.
What I was saying, the writings exactly, but not whether Paul existed, but whether the writings are first century. And if they are first century, then we have mentions of Jesus within the first century.
Well, yeah, if you move something without any evidence to the first century, then it's going to be there. Yeah. And if Martha Washington, we have proof of her there in the first century, I guess George is in the first century too. If I just move Martha Washington to the first century, I guess George goes as well. It's
what I'm saying is the consensus as far as when the epistles were written was the 50 AD. So I mean, that seems to be the widely accepted consensus.
Yeah, but there's just no evidence of it. The only reason they say that is because they take Acts at its word. But Acts is definitely not written in the first century. And on top of that, I mean, it's very clearly lifting from prior works that are after the 50s. So, I mean, what?
You
it's
also
pulling from Antiquities of the Jews and shit.
Right. So what about Clement of Rome, who does mention Paul?
What about him?
Because you said that nobody's ever talked about Paul, that nobody mentions Paul.
Outside of Christianity? That's what I said. Or are you saying in the first century?
Well, why would anyone outside of Christianity talk about Paul?
I literally listed off a whole bunch of different people that he runs into, including Gallio, who we have the Gallio inscription for. He's a real person. And his younger brother Seneca, we have writings from him. He writes 127 moral epistles. These letters to a fake person sound familiar. 127 of them, and this is written in the middle of the first century. He has just about the same supposed lifetime as Paul, and he writes about different religions and offshoots and cults around the Roman Roman Empire. Never mentions Jesus, Christians, Paul, or anything like that. So that's weird. So I mean, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why you would expect to see Paul at least mentioned, because I mean, he's a famous person. He almost convinces Festus to become a Christian, like according to Acts. At the very least, the Paul that is presented in the New Testament absolutely did not exist. And considering the fact that the most egregious, ridiculous example of Paul is in Acts, and Acts is the only way that you can possibly date the letters of Paul, then I don't know what to tell you. You'd have to somehow convince me that Acts is like depicting a real thing.
Well, okay, so I mean, there's a couple things there, right? So
Yeah.
are you saying that because Clement of Rome is within the Christian movement, because he's an early church father, you're saying you don't count that as evidence for talking about Paul?
I haven't said that at all. I just said that there's no Christian outside of the there's no Christian in the first century that mentions him, and I said that there's no one outside of Christianity that even mentions Paul. I mean, a Christian talking about Paul after the character is introduced in 144 by Marcion isn't surprising to me. Why would it be? I mean, like, there's Mormons that talk about Moroni after Joseph Smith talks about him. That doesn't help.
Right. So, okay, what about like when Polycarp references Paul in one of his writings? I think you
Also,
mentioned
post
something about-
144, why would you keep mentioning Christians that come out and write
well-
about Paul after
Well, of
we
course they're
have
going to write about Paul after the fact. They're not going to write about Paul.
well, like after the
That's
story is
before the letter's
introduced
written.
80 years after he dies? Okay. Like,
What
Paul
I'm saying is
supposedly
you
dies
can't-
in the early 60s, but the first time we get any mention of Paul is in the 140s by Marcion. Okay. Like, you're just
Well-
mentioning people who are writing after that. Why does that
No.
matter?
The point that I'm making is that you said that
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't date Galatians until probably the second or third century, but yet now but you're accepting that some people did mention Paul within the early second
After
century.
it was published in... No, I didn't say the early second century.
Well, it would
I didn't
have
say
to
the
be
word
after
early
it
at
was
all.
published. You wouldn't expect it to be before. Like, for example, when Polycarp is quoting Galatians, how could he quote it before Galatians was written?
Right, and it's written in the 140s, so why do I care? Like, sweet. And when the current Mormon prophet quotes Joseph Smith on Moroni, again,
Well, I'm not
okay,
talking about.
yeah.
I want to be clear. I'm not Christian at all. Jesus is not. This has nothing to deal with magic. I'm just not a mythicist.
Well, again, you're just
I'm
kind of pointing to people
taken
who
away from
write
that,
about
but-
a character after the character's first introduced. I'm well aware that there's fan fiction of Harry Potter after the 90s. Who gives a shit? Why would that matter? It's not better evidence for Harry Potter because the character's introduced and then people start writing about it. Who cares? Like, you're going to have to show me evidence that Harry Potter is a real person prior to the first time we get the fictional stories.
So let me ask you, what would you
New
accept?
Testament scholar?
What does evidence look like to you for that Jesus existed? Like, what would that need to
Name
look
me,
like?
what, are we going back to Jesus or are we going to Paul? Or are we sticking
Well,
on Paul?
So the reason why I even mentioned Paul at all
Uh-huh.
was because Galatians mentions Jesus, and Galatians is dated very early within the first century, which you don't seem to agree with that. Obviously,
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you
against-
showed me evidence of Galatians before the first time that Jesus and Paul are presented in 144, if you showed me any evidence that Galatians goes back to the first century, yeah, sweet.
Okay,
We could
so
talk
if
about
we-
that. Do you have any evidence whatsoever to suggest that Galatians is written in the first century?
I don't think anything that you've accepted. Like I mentioned,
What do
I
you
mentioned
have?
Polycarp. What we talked about Polycarp in his letter to the Philippians,
Okay.
when he quotes
And
Galatians.
when do you think Polycarp was writing?
He early second century.
What is your evidence of that?
So you don't agree with that dating
No.
either.
Polycarp dies
Okay.
in like 155 to 167. Why the fuck would I put... What the hell?
Well, he died in 155. So why is it crazy that he'd be writing in 120?
How... They didn't have glasses back then. How the fuck do you think people were, like, writing... What are you talking
Why are
about?
you LARPing as a New Testament scholar?
I'm not a scholar. I never said that. Thanks for putting words in my mouth.
Yeah, I know you're not, because 0% of New Testament scholars think that.
Hey, John, I know that you like to put things into my mouth, but what we're going to need you to do is keep your mouth shut for about maybe 10 minutes or so. If you'd like to leave, you can pull the oh shit handle. It's up there. It looks like an X or the PlayStation that you're addicted to, the little cross button. You can hit that if you like. But I'm talking to Dan right now. Thanks.
Yeah, you're a clown and a dumb.
See ya. All right, Dan, go ahead.
So I guess if we can back to Jesus, I guess
Mhm.
what kind of evidence would you accept for Jesus being a real person?
I mean, I would accept any mundane mention of him from the first century.
Any mundane.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, with
So
his name on it. Yeah.
Okay. So anything in the second century you wouldn't accept at all. It would
I
have
mean,
you want to be-
early second maybe, but like once you get to the point to where we have Marcion, who didn't even think Jesus was a human being, publishing his gospel, and then people after that historicizing that character, like
No, I agree with that.
I don't,
No, I agree.
I don't know what to do there.
Well, I agree. People get, the history, who Jesus was and what he did can absolutely be mythologized, right? I'm just talking about, I mean, I guess it depends, right? Because if you can argue, well, if Jesus didn't do all these things that the Bible claims, then is he really Jesus, right? I'm just talking loosely,
I'm
like
not-
get a guy that the story of Jesus,
Yeah,
it can be
yeah,
based
I'm
on
aware. I'm aware, but we don't have any claims of that guy. What are you?
So,
What are you
if
talking
you,
about?
so you mentioned that you'd maybe accept something in the early second century. So
Yeah, sweet.
for-
What do we have in
when-
the early second century prior to 144 that mentions Jesus?
So when Pliny the Younger is writing to
Doesn't
Trajan,
say the name Jesus and doesn't say that
he
Christ
doesn't.
is a god
He
or
he
Christ
says
is a man. Yeah.
Christ as to a God.
No,
says,
he
right?
doesn't. The word "a" there, if you're looking at a translation that has the word "a," that is going to be very misleading because Latin didn't have articles like that.
Okay, so what do you think he's saying there?
I mean, it literally says that Christ is their God. Okay. And they're
Christ
Christians.
as
Why wouldn't
their
that be a
God?
problem?
Christ as their God, not Christ as to a God.
Yep. Christ is their deity. They're Christians.
Right, because every translation that I've seen says that it's Christ as to a God.
I'm aware, but not all translations say that because Latin didn't have articles. They're putting in "a" because they're assuming that he's a man. And so they're saying that because Christ equals Jesus in our worldview and Jesus equals man, then there needs to be an "a" put there in English. That is not the case. Latin does not work that way. Also, on top of that, he does not say anything about the New Testament, no connection to Judaism, even though this is 3 years before the Second Jewish-Roman War, which was outside of Judea. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why this is just not going to be good evidence for Jesus. But on top of that, he doesn't say the name Jesus and doesn't say anything about this being a person, a human being or something like that. He seems very confused as to what this is. But I'd also like to point out that Christ is a title, not a name. And Christ actually is connected to multiple gods and multiple people prior to 111. There's just no evidence that they have a New Testament. I'm well aware that Christianity and Christianity had been around since probably about the 1st century BCE is where we start seeing evidence. But there's no evidence whatsoever that they had a Jesus as their founder. I mean, he tortures Christians and he doesn't get the name Jesus? That's really weird.
Right, so I'm not, okay, so I agree, he doesn't say Jesus. I mean, I think that's very clear, but I think that's where the translation becomes an important aspect of this, because every translation that I've seen says that it's Christ as to a God, which to me seems to suggest that whoever these Christians are worshiping is clearly not a God.
Again, Latin doesn't have articles like that, so I don't know what to tell you. I don't care if you're reading a English translation and they're thinking the word "a" needs to be inserted there, but the only reason that they do that is because that is based off of the actual translator's discretion. They can put
exactly
God or they can put a God if they wanted to. But considering the fact that most translators assume that Jesus was a person and this Christ is who the Jesus is, who this person's talking about, or the Jesus is who this Christ is referring to, then they'll put the word "a" there at their own discretion. I don't. Okay, like that doesn't really do much.
Well, I know a lot. I mean, you talk to any Christian, they'll tell you that Jesus is God. They won't tell you that he's a man. So I don't think there's any like theological, theology that's being injected into that translation. I mean, maybe.
So,
I mean, you never know.
right here, I have, this is from Oxford World's Classics, Pliny the Younger, complete letters. Up there on the top, you will see literally at the very top, to sing
Christ
a
as
hymn.
God.
Yep. So I don't give a shit about the translations that you have read that says a God. There absolutely are translations that are truer to the Latin that don't have articles. I don't know what to fucking tell you. You have read a translation that absolutely has let a particular concept or presupposition that Jesus is at least a human that is being referred to as Christ in this particular text, they let that presupposition seep into their translation. That is not what it says. So I don't know what to tell you, man. I just showed you literally a
If we
Oxford
go with that
published translation
translation,
that doesn't
I
say
mean,
a God.
well, okay, as God. Okay, that's fine. I mean, either way, it's
Yeah,
fine.
in other
So
words, their
let's go with your interpretation.
God is Christ. Okay, cool. Sweet.
Okay.
That doesn't
So
automatically mean Jesus.
Okay, who are they talking about if it's not Jesus?
Probably Serapis, which was worshipped in Sinope, the biggest city in Bithynia and Pontus, where Pliny the Younger was governor. And, by the way,
Yeah.
where Marcion comes from, the first person to publish a gospel.
Right, but Serapis wouldn't just be referred to as Christus or Christus or whatever.
Why
That's not the
not?
name that they would have given for Serapis.
Why not?
Because that's not the name that he would have used. This is Pliny the Younger. If he's a
What
Roman
are you
god, he
talking
would have.
about?
I don't think he would have called him.
So you're arguing
What do
that
you
he
mean, what
would
am I
have actually
talking
used
about?
the name, and he doesn't use the name Jesus, so therefore it's
I think
Jesus?
he would have properly named the god. Yeah, I think he would have
Okay,
properly named
so
him
but he wouldn't
Serapis,
have properly
right?
named the person. That would be too fucking stupid.
Well, okay, well, let's look at it. When we look at whenever Serapis is used in antiquity, how it does, has it ever just been referenced as just Christ? How often do we see that?
Well, considering the fact that considering the fact that Emperor Hadrian's letter in the 130s says that a bishop of Christ is a bishop of Serapis, I don't know what to tell you there.
Okay, can we see that? Do you have that?
The letter from Emperor Hadrian. Let's see. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and pull this up. Oh. It's on researchgate.net. Give me 1 second. I got to verify some stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I want the actual fucking letter. All right, here we go. All right, so are you ready? Okay, here is the letter. And it's not just being talked about in like a weird way. It just actually gives the content itself. So, let's see. From Hadrian Augustus to Servianus the consul, greeting. The land of Egypt, the praises which you have been accounting to me, my dear Servianus, I have found to be wholly light-minded, unstable, and blown about by every breath of rumor. For those who worship Serapis are in fact Christians, and those who call themselves Bishop of Christ are in fact devotees of Serapis.
Oh, could you leave that there real quick? Sorry, I was reading that. Worship Serapis are in fact Christians. Those who call themselves bishops of Christ are in fact devotees of Serapis. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well, something to look into for sure. So I'm not sure when you said that was written by Trajan, Emperor Trajan.
Hadrian. Trajan
Hadrian.
dies in 117. Hadrian's in the 130s. But that being said, whenever we have mentions of this Christ figure or any Christ figure or any Christus figure prior to this, there's no mention of the word Jesus next to it earlier than this. So where is your evidence that this would have to be Jesus?
Well, it would depend. It would depend, I think, on that translation, and it would depend
It's
on
not a how okay,
Serapis.
all right. We're going to try this again. The word Christ is not a translation of the name Jesus.
No, I know that. Like you said, it's a
You
title.
are insinuating that whenever they use this term, they would mean Jesus, because Christ automatically means Jesus in your mind. When I suggested that it meant Serapis, all right, you said, well, it doesn't mention Serapis, which is the exact same thing that I've been arguing this time for Jesus. Even if you want to say that this means that we don't know who that is, that's fine. There goes your evidence, though.
Right. So I'm agreeing with that. So this is the point that I'm making. When in antiquity, when we look at whenever people are talking about Jesus,
Hmm.
is he often called just Christ? Like what is more often
Like by a
when you see
Christian, sure.
right, he is, right. And then between the Romans, when they say Christ, are they typically talking about Serapis, or do they, when they are talking about Serapis, is it typical for them to actually spell
It
out his
really
entire
just
name or
depends.
refer to
It
him as something
really just
else?
depends because we don't always have mentions of. Uh, so far, first of all, whenever we have Christ mentioned, lots of times people will immediately jump to this and just immediately say that has to be Jesus. For instance, Crestus, which means the good one, is a title that applied to gods and to slaves because, like, the favorite slave is sometimes known as Crestus the good one, that kind of thing. So, whenever we have Suetonius in Lives of the 12 Caesars in 119 mention that there were Jews that started riots at the instigation of Crestus, that could be a person, but it could also be, again, some kind of deity known as Crestus. Crestus was a term that applied to deities. We have the term Christus that also applies to deity. It just means anointed. That's all that it means. So where I'm going with this is that before 144, before we have evidence of a gospel specifically of somebody named Jesus or Isu there, we don't have any evidence or any leg to stand on to say, oh, these people, when they say Christ or Christus, automatically mean Jesus. This is something that is talked about in me and my co-author's book on, we call it the synonym problem. It is an issue where people see something that is close to Jesus and they automatically assume that that must just be Jesus. And any time where this is potentially not Jesus, they go, oh, and they just cast it out and we don't really even hear about it anymore. We have like the Hadrian letter. The reason you haven't heard about it a lot is because of the fact that that's not something that looks good for Christianity. So a lot of Christians don't say anything about it. We also have an inscription called CILVI 24944, which mentions Christians that dates between 16 BCE and 37 CE, which would be before Christians say that they're called Christians in the 50s in Antioch. This is problematic. Even non-Christian scholars, even mythicist scholars like Richard Carrier, he doesn't even have access. He claims he doesn't even, because you have to pay for access to the actual like compendium of inscriptions that mentions this. He claims in his blog that he doesn't even have current access to go look at that inscription. So he just kind of has to go off a memory of what he heard or what he read about sometime prior. So where I'm going with this is that we have information that people look at and they say, this is Christ or this is close to Jesus, so it must be Jesus. But the things that go contrary to that kind of way of thinking just don't get brought up because it's not evidence for Jesus, so it's not worth having a conversation from a Christian standpoint. It's just not. So to the point to where non-Christians don't even say shit about it because the Christians don't bring it up. It's just kind of buried. They just kind of move past it and don't even talk about it anymore because it's potentially damning to their belief.
Right. So I actually agree with everything you said there. I think the one thing I do disagree though is this idea that, well, for starters, I agree that just because it's, he says Christ doesn't automatically mean that that he's talking about Jesus.
Right.
Clearly, there's different meanings to it. But I also understand how language works, and the fact of the matter is that a lot of times, depending on how famous someone is, a lot of times their title or that can essentially become their stage name. It becomes their actual name. Yeah, I mean, if we say, oh, your Buddha was born in such and such year, you and I both know that Buddha is just a title, right? The awakened one. But however, even though I said Buddha, a lot of times just about everybody unanimously agrees that we're typically thinking about Siddhartha Gautama, right? So there are a lot of times that these
And the
names that
closer
are
you get to his lifetime, the more likely he is to be called that as opposed to just Buddha. That's my point.
right, or even not maybe not even that, right? You look at even like celebrities nowadays. You look at I don't know, like Prince. You look at any artist where they're not when no one calls them by their real name. You call them by what they're called, by whatever their title is, or whatever it is that they call themselves, or other people are calling them. So
Right. But the closer that you would get to Prince's lifetime, the more likely you would see his actual name.
I'm not sure about
I
that.
mean, in the future, we're probably
calling-
not going to be calling him by any other name other than Prince.
right, but even when he was famous, or I mean, still is to this day, right? 20 years ago, were people
Right.
calling him by his real name? Probably not. We're probably still calling him Prince. And
Well,
that's the point. That
slowly but surely, people are going to forget what his name even was. I don't even know what his fucking name is, and I know it's not Prince.
I don't know either. I don't fucking know either. But that's the point. That's the point that I'm making, is that it hasn't been that long that he was around, and we're calling him Prince. And so that's the point that I'm making with Jesus. If Pliny is writing about him 100 years
His
after he
fucking
died,
name was Prince.
Was it actually Prince?
I didn't even know that. His name is Prince Nelson.
I didn't even know that. Okay, but you get the point that I'm making. There are celebrities that go by their stage name, that people call them that, and that's not actually their real name.
I mean,
And
I
that's
get that, but the closer we get to their lifetime, the more likely you are to find things that actually have their name. And in this particular case, prior to the first time that we get a gospel, we suddenly see the word Christ being used, but no Jesus. That's the problem. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that we have a mystery cult that is around prior that is worshiping some deity that they know is Christ or Christus, but they don't have an actual story of this Jesus that shows up until much later. That's the issue.
Possibly. It's hard for me to say what's more likely, because obviously Christians believe that he was God. And if you think he's God, you're probably going to be less likely to call him by his earthly name. And you're going to be more likely to call him, Christ or the Son of God or the Messiah or whatever it is. And you might just say,
well, unfortunately, what Pliny does, if you read that letter, is he ends up running into people who aren't even really Christian anymore. He says that he runs into people who said that they haven't been Christian for 20 years. Or 25 years is what he says. So ultimately, I mean, these people wouldn't have any incentive to just call him Christ as opposed to Jesus or anything like that. But he never provides any name of this character or anything like that, or even insinuates that he's a human being. He doesn't mention any connection to Judaism or anything like that. I mean, hell, there's a tax that was levied upon them in the 90s, in the 70s, the Fiscus Judaicus, that he doesn't mention at all. So if these are like Jewish people or potentially Jewish people, like, he doesn't mention anything like that, which is weird. Like, at the very least, 3 years before the Second Jewish-Roman War, when you're taxing Jewish people and for the purpose of keeping them from proselytizing and spreading their religion and stuff like that, running into a group of people well out of Judea that are seemingly worshiping a Jewish person or a person that you think or you understand to be from Judea, and following slightly Judaic practices, you don't mention Judaism at all? That's really weird. Like,
my understanding
the
is that
lack of
Christianity-
information there is bizarre.
Well, my understanding was that early Christianity was probably more of a Gentile religion than it was for the Jews.
Okay. But, I mean, nevertheless, you still believe that they are worshiping somebody who was from Judea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't mention that at all. He doesn't even mention they worship a human, let alone a human from Judea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in looking further into that Hadrian letter, though. How do I look that up and look into that?
Look up Hadrian letter on Christians or Serapis?
Okay, so there's not like a specific letter I should be looking up?
Nah, it'll be a specific one. Like, it'll pull it up. The actual, I think it's from, let me see the actual name of the letter. So it's from a big collection of texts. Now, some of these texts are called into question. Some of them are perfectly fine. Some of them aren't. It's a collection. It's like a big compendium of letters. Historia Augusta is the name of the book. Volume 3, pages 399 to 406.
Historia Augusta.
Historia Augusta. Yeah. So there's some text in there that we've looked into, and it doesn't line up with history. Some texts are fine. Some texts aren't. It's just it's a big collection of a whole bunch of different letters.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'll check it out. You're the first person I've ever heard say that Galatians is not written in the first century. That's something that I would want to
If
look
you want
into.
to check more about that, you can look into scholar M. David Litva. He's a Christian, and still his scholarship on this here recently says that the earliest iterations that we have of these things come from the second century. We don't really have any. Now, he still believes that Paul existed, but we don't have any version of Galatians that goes back to the first century. Not at all. The earliest iteration of these things goes to the second century. You can also take a look at Dr. Nina Livesey's work. Her entire life's work has been on Paul, and her book, The Letters of Paul and Their Roman Literary Context, published by, I think, Oxford, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Or either that or Cambridge, one of the two. Back in December of 2024, it suggested that these letters were written in the second century by the Marcionites, the same thing I just told you. You also have the works from Dr. Jason Badoon. He does some reconstructions of Marcion's what's called Apostolicon, which would be the collections of Paul that he comes out with there in 144. And he says that this is the first time that we get them. So again, it's all second century stuff. We don't have any evidence whatsoever in the Pauline letters that dates them to the first century. That's just, it's trusting other Christian documents that we already know are like bullshit, like Acts. That's the only way that we can date them to the first century.
Now, if we could date those undisputed letters to the first century, do you believe that'd be good enough evidence that Jesus was a real person, or do you still
for the most part, yeah. For the most part, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It's just we'd have to somehow date them to the first century and know what it has in it, because the canonical versions that we have today are from the late second, and so the earliest iterations from 144 they're not the same. That's the thing. Marcion came out with versions of the letters that they don't look as, it's as if they're more stripped down, to the point to where later Christians claimed, oh, he took things from us. Like we had text, like Paul had text and he just ripped pieces out of it. But no, it's the other way around. He had very small text that ended up getting added to later on. Tertullian in 200 says that he has to take Paul's existence on faith, and the only reason he does so is because he has his own edits of Paul's letters. So it's pretty obvious that like if we were to date Paul to the first century, I mean, it would need to be like a really small amount of Paul that would potentially go that way. I mean, you're aware of the concept of the 6 or 7 undisputed letters, or the undisputed or the authentic letters, or whatever. Yeah. So when Marcion publishes his New Testament canon, his collection there in 144 is his canon. The letters of Paul, there was either 9 or 10 of them. So up to 4 of them, even by Christian scholar standards today, up to 4 of them were fake, like just immediately. So
right. Like Timothy, First Timothy, Second
yeah.
Timothy.
Well, no, he didn't have the pastorals. The pastorals are the other 3. He had up to 10, and the pastorals make it 13. There in the canon today, but only 6 or 7, depending on your view of Philemon, according to Christian scholars, are, or at least most scholars today, would be authentic to Paul. So if Marcion is publishing 10 of them, it's potential that 4 of them are fake. The first time they're ever published, ever. So, I mean, I strongly doubt that we're going to get it to a historical Paul from the guy who was publishing literal, straight up fake bullshit.
So when we're looking at these two, right, Paul and Marcion, you're saying that you think it's more likely that that Paul is ripping off Marcion, quote unquote Paul, or am I I'm just trying to understand what it is that you're saying.
No, I'm saying that the Marcionites, they work together to write texts, and you just use the pseudonym Paul, which makes sense because Paul is a diminutive. It's not even a fucking name, so that's why they gave him a real name in Acts, by the way. But when they call this character or this author Paul, they're just using it as a pseudonym, or likely just talking about Marcion and just using the word Paul for him, if that makes sense. Paul means the small one, and Marcion is it's a Greek name. It's Markion. It means little mark. And then it's no surprise that shortly after his gospel, we end up with the gospel according to Mark.
Right. And so the reason why you think that was done was because it's a stripped down version of what the Christians have for Paul's letters?
No,
Or
because it's the first iteration of them, and because it becomes popular, people add to it in order to make certain claims, and try to beef up the story to Paul, try to beef up their claims with authority. For instance, the example I like to give is circumcision. Throughout the middle of the 2nd century all the way to like the early to mid 3rd century, you end up with church fathers arguing back and forth as to whether or not circumcision is required. But Paul says it's not required, and he says this as early as the 50s. So why the fuck are they still arguing it 100 to 200 years later? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Paul already settled this debate, but it's indicative of the fact that that is something that is added to the text after Marcion, because someone is wanting to speak with authority on it and say, "Oh, look, Paul says this," and so they add it in. That's just
I'm
how
not,
it goes. The same thing goes for like Joseph Smith, because he actually documents where he and his cohorts were arguing over baptism of the dead on a certain date and whether or not that's something that's supposed to be okay. But the Book of Mormon explicitly has a verse that says to baptize the dead. So if you just translated a book that says you have to do it, then it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that like that's when you came up with the idea right there, and that's when you wrote it, as opposed to having something that was already around that told you to do it, and you're arguing for some reason about it.
well, the thing, I'm not sure that Paul really did settle the whole circumcision dispute, because I thought the whole point was that James and Peter, or at least James, clearly didn't disagreed with his view on that. Also, my understanding was that the dispute was whether Gentiles should be circumcised. It seemed clear to me that the Jews, at least, still needed to continue to get circumcised.
The people who were arguing it were not Jewish.
Between who? What do you mean the people? Who are the people that were arguing it?
Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Origen.
Right.
These are
Okay.
not Jewish people.
That's fine. Interesting. Well, I'll definitely look into it. To be clear, I'm not even a Christian, so if that wasn't already obvious. But yeah, something to look into. But I appreciate the talk.
Yep, not a problem. Thank you very much for coming up, man.
All right, thanks.
Let's see. Really quick. Is that Kyler? Surely that's Kyler and not like Killer, right? I mean, either way, it's kind of badass. But how do you pronounce your name there? Is it Kyler Davenport? Is that how you pronounce your name? You there, buddy? Kyler? Kyler, are you there?
Arby's, we have the meats.
I sent him an invite to unmute, but he didn't.
Yes,
Oh, there
I'm
he
here.
goes. Hey, there we go. Kyler, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
Sorry.
hey, no worries, no
How-
worries.
Well, I waited so long. You know how your brain kind of fries after a while. I'm really loving what you're doing here. I'm really enjoying it a lot.
Thank you.
I think what you're doing is you seem to me kind of a sophisticated, very smart Christopher Hitchens. You know, Christopher is one of my. I mean,
those are kind words, but no, I try my best to do little hitch slaps on here, but nah, no.
well, I mean, the way you're describing things and evaluating things and analyzing things to me, like a forensic analyst, you know, you're not a know-it-all. I love that. I'm a talk show host, by the way. I've written several books, but you're not a know-it-all. I like that. You don't have a lot of false pride. I can tell you're willing to give people a chance to talk. And that's something very rare on here, you know?
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. It depends on if you agree with me or disagree with me and how much. Obviously, I do match energy, so every once in a while, you might catch me on a day where you're like, "Wow, that guy's a fucking asshole," and it's like, no, it's just that I'm,
I used to
matching
be
energy.
I used to be a complete asshole. I'm 70 years old now, and I've done over 5,000 talk shows. I'm about 100, been in 123 countries. But I mean, I used to be a real asshole, and my friends kind of calmed me down and kind of steered me in the right direction because I was running more people off my show than I was bringing them on. And I was getting too much debate and too much violence and all kinds of things, threats. And so I've changed my approach, and I'm glad that I did. And I thank my friends and people like you also for a shining example of what I need to be more of, on my show. And I wanted to say the reason I came on, I grew up a Christian in a Baptist church over there in Dallas, Texas. It was like can't even remember the name of my church now because I'm 70 and I guess I'm getting a little Alzheimer's. But anyway,
No, on the Dallas side, like, was it True Dallas or was it Fort Worth?
True Dallas, East Dallas. Yeah,
East Dallas. Oh, like Rockwall or something. You grew up on the rich part of town.
On Lindsley Avenue there.
Oh, man.
But
no, I'm over in Fort Worth.
Oh, cool. The Bass Brothers. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
anyway,
I guess. I mean, I like Bass Hall, I guess.
Yeah. As I got older, I started questioning everything, and I started studying quantum theory and quantum physics, quantum mechanics, astrophysics, cosmology, philosophy, ancient civilizations, ancient languages. I decided to go back when I found about AI, started dealing with AI, started dealing with Claude, GPT, DeepSeek, and so forth. I decided to write a book. So I wrote this really long, ardent, deep prompt for the AIs, for the neural network.
You say it was really long and deep? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's really deep. I wrote a long prompt. I didn't want to just write a short prompt and say, give me a Bible.
Keep going.
Anyway, they wrote the book. The agents wrote the book, and I told them, go back to the very beginning as far as you can possibly dig. Bring me back the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Trent, the Council of Constantinople, and King James, and all the rest that you can possibly find. Tell me how the translations have changed the course of history over the last, 2,000 years. Tell me how these languages have had a great impact on the actual meaning of the Bible, the King James version of the Bible.
Really quick, I hate to cut you off here, but what does this have to do with historical Jesus and Paul? Can we get to that? What?
Yes.
Yeah. Just because it sounds like you got an interesting story there, but I just, for the sake of time, like what's the connection to the historical Jesus?
Well, Jesus, number one, they came back with the ancient languages and told me what this said, and I wrote the book on it. So Jesus was never a deity or the Son of God. The Virgin Mary was never a virgin. Jesus never was crucified and had all the stuff going on as a deity. He might have been crucified, but other people were crucified. Many people were crucified. Hell does not exist. That word has been changed to hell by the Catholic Church and others to keep people in fear and enslaved to the church.
Right.
And there are no angels. None of this stuff exists. And I would like to see more intellectuals like you come out and just abolish the whole thing, like Christopher Hitchens and Dawkins said. We have to go head to head with these Christians and not monkey around and try to be nice and sweet and kind and all that and worry about sensitivities. We have to just tell them like it is, show them the evidence and let them figure it out for themselves. Well, I have the evidence here, and it's amazing what I found out. It relieved me. I grew up thinking I was going to go to hell. I grew up thinking I was never good enough. I grew up thinking Jesus had to save my sins. I never understood how that worked when you go back in history and see the billions and billions and trillions of years. And then I looked at disclosure. I wrote a major piece for President Trump, which I don't like President Trump, but I sent it to one of my CIA contacts in the White House. They gave it to Trump, and Trump added it to Stephen Greer's work. So I was impressed with that. And I've interviewed a lot of people in the skiff. I don't want to go into that in detail, but aliens are among us. ETs are among us and have been among us. This is no secret unless people have been hiding under a rock. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if y'all want to look me up sometime, Kyler Davenport, Kiler Davenport. I'm not trying to say anything at all, and I won't. But if you look me up, Kyler Davenport, you'll see that I'm not just some blojo that popped on, here to pop off. I mean, and again, I want to thank you for what you're doing. I just want to say that
this guy's absolutely a blowjob that just popping off. Next person, please.
Sorry.
What?
Somebody decided to hop up and say something, but keep going.
I just wanted to say Christianity needs to be abolished. I mean, it needs to be abolished, I guess, more sweetly than more violently. I mean, people need to be told the truth, and we need to get
Sounds
on
like demon
with
talk to me.
existence here in the Matrix. Demons talking. Oh, here we go. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Anyway,
dude, just
people need to
shut
get
up
on
for a
with the
second.
science.
Let Kyler finish talking. All right, go ahead.
People need to get on with logic and reason. People need to get on with critical thinking and scientific analysis and empiricism. They need to stop fantasizing and believing in fairy tales, and that's all I have to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. That's Kyler Davenport there. Kyler Davenport, everybody. Kyler Davenport. Let's see. The next person up here, obviously we're not going to go to the asshole who keeps unmuting. So we're going to go with Mason. Mason has been waiting patiently as opposed to waiting impatiently. What's going on, Mason?
So, just a quick question. Do you believe that Julius Caesar existed?
Yeah.
How come there's only 10 documents that prove he existed?
Why are you needing documents to prove that Julius Caesar existed?
Because you say that Jesus and Paul didn't exist yet. There's 25 plus
slow down. We're talking about Julius Caesar. I didn't mention anything about documents. Why did you randomly think that documents is how I knew that Julius Caesar existed?
Because that's literally something that mentions him and shows that he existed.
Dude, Mason, it sounds like you have put your microphone all the way down your esophagus. Please pull it at least 3 inches out and just keep talking. But I haven't mentioned anything about documents for Julius Caesar. That's not how I determined that he existed.
Okay, how do you determine he existed then?
Because of coins, busts, and statues with his face on it that he posed for, which is how we know that what he looked like. They date to his
You're
lifetime.
not going to believe this.
Okay.
There's icons and coins from the, Byzantine Empire of Jesus.
Sweet.
So,
Was Jesus alive during the Byzantine Empire?
what's that got to do with it?
Well, I just said that there's coins, busts, and statues that date to the life of Julius Caesar that he posed for. All right. And then you just decided to name things that Jesus didn't pose for that weren't made until hundreds of years later?
You tell me why you don't believe that Jesus and Paul is real.
Sweet. If I draw a picture of Paul Bunyan right now, is that evidence that Paul Bunyan exists? There were movies that were made of Harry Potter after the first book came out. Does that mean anything? That's dumb as shit, dude. The fuck are you talking about?
Oh.
Mason, you really wanted to come up here and you waited while I talked to Kyler and everything like that so patiently to bring up the world's worst argument ever for Jesus?
You tell me why. You tell me why.
Because I
Jesus
pointed
Paul
to
didn't
something
exist.
contemporary to Julius Caesar, and then you decided to point to something hundreds of years after Jesus as if that meant the same thing.
What about 25,000 plus eyewitness documents of Jesus?
Name
and
me
Paul?
one document where the author says, I am an eyewitness.
Where's my phone? Let's pull it up.
There's 25,000 and you don't know one off the top of your head?
This is so disingenuous.
Yeah. Salu, let's try this, buddy. If you unmute again while we're waiting to talk to you, which I'll talk to you, but if you unmute again, I'm going to go ahead and block you. You're being a piece of shit anyways. But...
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, no worries. See you later. Bye. Okay, so Mason, please continue.
Where is it? 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 3 to 8.
This is written by an eyewitness?
Read it.
I just asked you to find a manuscript where the author says they were an eyewitness, and then you pointed to Paul, who wasn't even an eyewitness of Jesus's life? What are you talking about? Even if Paul existed, which very clearly I say he didn't even exist, even if I grant you that Paul existed, he wasn't an eyewitness to Jesus. So congratulations. You just pointed to something else.
I can prove to you. I can prove to you.
Okay, so you said we have 25,000.
Stop cutting me off. No.
So
I can prove.
You're now muted. You said we have 25,000 manuscripts from eyewitnesses, and then you were tasked with finding one. And out of all 25,000 that you claimed we had, you picked something that's not even from an eyewitness, like in the text itself.
So are you saying that it specifically has to say it for it to be?
You just said it. We have eyewitness testimonies, and you didn't give me an eyewitness testimony.
Understood.
No, you didn't. First Corinthians is not written by an eyewitness.
Read it.
Who wrote First Corinthians?
Paul.
Was Paul an eyewitness to Jesus?
I'm pretty sure if he is an apostle,
really?
so I'm pretty sure.
You think he was one of the 12
pretty
disciples?
positive.
Now, you think he was one of the 12 disciples?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the 12 disciples. All right, I'm going to read off the list of names here. We have Peter, not Paul. Andrew, not Paul. James, not Paul. John, not Paul. Philip, not Paul. Bartholomew, not Paul. Thomas, not Paul. Matthew, not Paul. James, the son of Alphaeus, also not Paul. Thaddeus, also known as Judas, son of James, not Paul. Simon the Zealot, not Paul. Judas Iscariot, not Paul. And after Judas Iscariot either explodes, according to Acts, or gets hangs himself, according to Matthew, he's replaced by Matthias, which, by the way, and this is true, wait for it, is not the name Paul. So notice I didn't say Paul, and I didn't say Shaul either, if you want to try to get cute. So, would you like to try again?
Alright, I'll prove it with scripture then.
Cool. So what we're looking for is we're looking for an eyewitness testimony, because you said we have 25,000 of them. Your first one was a swing and a miss. I'd like for you to just knock it out of the park with the second one. Can you do that for us?
Alright then.
Okay. Name me an eyewitness testimony that we have in one of those manuscripts, please.
I'll pull it up. It's a certain verse. You have to go for it. I'll pull it up.
What's the verse?
It is where the Roman soldier stabbed Jesus inside.
Cool.
And found his dead.
What verse is this? Give us the name of the verse.
John 19:33-34.
John 19. All right. So where in the gospel there does it say that it's written by John?
It don't. What?
What?
That's just the name of it. That's just the name of it. I didn't say it was written by John.
So, all right. So that's two strikes. We are looking for a document where the author says, "I am an eyewitness." We are now two strikes in. And as you know, as we are, I mean, I'm wearing the Cardinals shirt and everything like that. Go Cards. You have one more chance to give us one of these 25. Look, there's 25,000 manuscripts that are from eyewitnesses. That's what you said. You've got a lot to play with. So, third chance, give us the name of a document that is written by an eyewitness, where the author says, "I'm an eyewitness." Go ahead. Or you can admit that you just kind of spoke out of your ass and didn't.
Are we going to keep cutting me off and let me speak?
Oh, go ahead and give that document. The name of that document, please.
I gave you one, John. That's the name.
But then you admitted that John didn't write it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the third document.
I never said John didn't write it.
Say what?
I never said John didn't write it.
Okay, sweet. Where does it say that John wrote it?
Will you let me read it out?
Where does it say that John wrote it?
Will you let me read it out?
Where does it say that John wrote it?
It's the name of it.
Oh, it's just the name of the text? So it doesn't say John wrote it?
Yeah. Are you gonna let me read the verse?
Well, no, because I asked you to find a text that is written by an eyewitness. I don't care what a book that's not from an eyewitness says. You said we have 25,000 eyewitness manuscripts. 25,000 of them. You can't name
let me
one.
Just read it out, yeah? Because let me speak. Stop cutting me off.
Sweet. So you can either give me. All right, cool. Well, you're not up here anymore. We're going to move on to Tim. And before we get to Tim really quick, I want to get to some super chats because I'm behind on those by quite a bit. All right. Let's see. $5 there from Chaos Engine 89. Hey, that's Chaos Engine. Chaos Engine Gaming here on TikTok, by the way. Check him out. Joe Feces, Sweet Tonius, I guess. Tassel Tits, Mars Bars Saran Wrap. Wait. All right, yeah, could have done without the last one, but the rest of it, pretty funny, pretty good. Those are some interesting nicknames for all these people that people bring up. $5 there for from Alan0465 says the Polycarp section in Against Heresies 334 has the same problems as the Testimonium. Phrase before and after connect well, and it is disruptive. Alan does a pretty decent job of finding this like random ass shit. I want to take a look at this. Polycarp 334. Okay, and then $5 beneficent. I think it says so. You contend Saul of Tarsus does not exist. Correct. And then you said it's $5 there. So are you arguing syncretism, or syncretism? Syncretism. It depends on how you pronounce it. But yeah, to some extent, I'm arguing that it's taking from different sources and everything like that. To some extent, I'm not up here saying, oh, Jesus is just Horus. Like, no, I'm not saying that. But those things do influence because they're part of the culture and everything like that. They're part of the surrounding areas, so those are going to just kind of go in there. $2 there from Kenny V93 that says, fuck Jesus. All right, well, damn. Okay. Straight and to the point. All right, I like it. $4.99 from Elotenope says, this is amazing! Just chilling on the beaches listening to this. Well, I'm happy that you're down on the beach. Hopefully you're enjoying your summer. Unless you're down in the southern hemisphere, in which case I hope you're enjoying your winter on the beach. $2 there from Benefit says, so you believe Socrates was a real person? And the answer is yes. We have multiple eyewitnesses and contemporaries and students of him who write about him. This would be Ptolemy, Xenophon, and Plato. Then, Jesus Christ, $2 from AXP Spicoli just says, queef, 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 queef. You guys are monsters. All right, $2 from Helping MAGA to Construct says, I hope everyone had a great weekend and are queefing for Christ. This is the worst. Let's see. And then we've got $5 from Zeno Lapudre. It says, this one's for you, O gentlemen of perfectness. This one's for you, O gentlemen of perfectness words. And queefs, viva las esquifis. Why? Why? All right. And then Tracy, formerly onto $1.99 says, hey, daddy, you make... Hey, daddy, you making me moist, you making me tingle. What the fuck is wrong with people? What the hell is wrong with people? Okay, I need to stop reading all these things. All right, Tim, you're up here. Jesus Christ.
What's going on, man?
Again, if you're on YouTube and you want to come up, the link is in the chat there. I take guests on TikTok. YouTube doesn't allow for me to do that, so you'd have to click the TikTok link in the chat. If you don't want to come up on TikTok or you don't have a TikTok, don't worry. You can send a super chat. I will read it out loud, and I will respond to it. I need to keep up with it a little more as they come in, get to it a little faster, but I promise I will get to it. Tim, yeah, we're talking about Jesus and Paul never existing. What do you got in the way of that?
I just want to know what would be wrong if the entire human collective decided to cull everybody below an 85 IQ to strengthen the remaining herd.
Oh, say to cull? Is that what you said?
Cull.
Oh, okay.
Cull is what you do with livestock with the weak and sickly ones. You eliminate them.
I'm aware. But that being said, that's kind of a random question. Doesn't have anything to do with the topic. Do you have anything on the topic?
Well, if we're all atheists, and I am,
Gross.
and there's no punishment for it, and it would strengthen the human collective.
Sweet.
What's wrong with doing it?
Do you have anything on the topic? That's what the question was.
No.
Okay. Go fuck yourself. All right. Let's see here. If anybody has any evidence for Jesus or Paul, please come up. Mason is one to come back up here. Hopefully he's found that other text there. What was the third swing that you'd like to make for the fences here?
Will you let me read it and explain it?
No. You said that we have 25,000 manuscripts from eyewitnesses, and you have yet
Yeah,
to
but
name
you're not
one.
letting me read and explain any of it.
I don't give a shit
I've
about you
named it,
reading
and you're
something
not-
that's not what you claimed that we had. So I don't care. If you
We
claim
do
that we
have it.
had something, why would I want to hear anything that's not from what you claimed we have?
Huh? It's got to do with your title. It shows
Awesome.
that Jesus actually did die on a cross.
Cool.
As
So
it's-
Mason, here's how this works.
Uh-huh.
You are on my live, and I'm going to ask you to support what you had claimed that you had made earlier. All right? So please.
Are you going to let me explain it?
I want you to give me the name of a text that is written by an eyewitness.
Well, John, but then you say, well, that's not an eyewitness, but I can prove it is.
Sweet. So where in the Gospel of John does it say it's written by John?
Well, that's not got to do with it. It's an eyewitness, and I can prove it is.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who wrote it.
Sweet.
Do you want me to prove it?
So, how do you know that it came from an actual eyewitness?
Okay, right, I'll show you. So it says that when Jesus was stabbed in the side, blood and water came out, yeah?
All right.
It could be completely illogical to say that
See
water
you, buddy.
came out as well,
Tell your mama
because
said hey.
they didn't know biology.
They did. That's stupid. The Christians and the Muslims both make these dumb claims that say that the people back then don't understand bodies in the way that we do today. This is an even dumber claim realistically than the Muslims usually make, because they usually try to say, oh, hey, the way that like babies are formed or whatever is so close to how we know the gestational period for like human beings and stuff like that. That means that it's like way ahead of its time scientifically and could only be from God. And it's like, you don't think that somebody in the fucking the fucking 7th century had any idea of like the gestational period for animals? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we've seen human beings like different pregnant corpses and stuff like that, or miscarriages and stuff like that, that would indicate how the gestational period goes on. Like, it's ridiculous. And then this claim is that the person who's named later as Longinus, this Roman centurion or whatever, pokes Jesus or whatever, and then blood and water comes out, and they say, oh, this is something that they wouldn't have known would happen. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, do you think that some of the most barbaric like eras of human history wouldn't understand what happens if you poke a dead body? Like, what are you talking about? It's incredibly obvious that they are looking for anything and everything to try to say that their gospel is somehow true and therefore has to be from an eyewitness, or therefore has to be from some divine source. And it's ridiculous. It just doesn't, no, that's not how any of this works. All right. Let's see. Pikachu says, I'm sure most of their info comes from ancient Greek texts. Yeah, see, that's another thing. There are certain claims that are found within like the Quran and stuff that had already been around for like 1,000 years prior. No joke, like over 1,000 years in some cases. Very clearly talking about some certain like scientific theories or ideas or stuff like that. And you just see them in the Quran later and they're like, oh my God, it's so ahead of its time. It's like, no, it's actually kind of behind. And most people actually thought that. It's not really that impressive when things are like lining up with things that had already been known for quite some time. We do have somebody coming up here though. This is Nikki Luigi.
What's up, man?
Hey, what you got, man?
You're making the claim. Let me hear your argument.
Yep. So Jesus and Paul, even their natural versions as presented by the New Testament, did not exist. This is evidenced by anachronisms that are in the text, which place their stories in impossible situations historically, because there's certain elements of the story that don't show up until after these characters are dead, that they somehow interact with.
Well, what do you mean they don't show up until after they're dead?
Yeah, so like the first rabbi is Johanan ben Zakkai in 70. He starts the first rabbinic school with permission from Emperor Vespasian right outside of Jerusalem at the end of the First Jewish-Roman War in 70. This would be 40 years after Jesus supposedly died. But not only is Jesus called rabbi throughout the Gospels, on top of that, in Matthew 23, he points out rabbis to the disciples and tells them all about like how they act, how they talk, how they preach, how they pray, where they sit in the synagogues, and even how they dress. That doesn't make sense 40 years before the first rabbi.
Yeah. So do you know any, like, do you have any history on the Gospels? Like, how well educated are you on Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John?
Pretty educated.
All right. Well, okay. Do you know what was the first Gospel written?
Evangeline? Are you talking about of the
What's
four
that?
canonical ones?
Yeah, the ones that are in the Bible. Yeah, the
Mark.
ones that from the yeah. So agree. So do you know when it was written?
Roughly about 145 is what I would say. I would be fine with hearing an argument to 136, 137 if you really wanted to, but probably about 145. The most popular opinion right now places it sometime around 60 to 70.
All right. I'm guessing you're looking things up as we're talking, and that's
not.
fine. But no, it's okay if you are too. No, dude, it's okay. Like that's not a knock. Like it really wasn't.
No
But
worries, man.
I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do for a living. I'm not a historian.
I'm an
not a
author and
scholar.
data scientist. I literally talk about the dating of the New Testament. That's
Okay,
in
so
my book.
why? My question. All right, so this is a good question for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Why do most historians, most scholars, even the agnostic and the atheist ones, even agree that Jesus, the man himself, did exist? Let's put aside the religious elements of it, but Jesus of Nazareth was a real person who existed on this earth and was crucified by Pontius Pilate. There is a lot, even outside the Bible. I mean, you can verify this if you want. There is evidence just go outside the canyons, the 66 books that we have, that Pontius Pilate did exist. And in fact, Jesus of Nazareth was crucified under Pontius Pilate, which is a historical fact.
Well, that wouldn't make any sense because we don't even have any mention of Nazareth in that time period. Nazareth isn't even mentioned in the Old Testament, Intertestament books, Jewish Apocrypha, text, maps, list. Josephus, who was born in 37 in Galilee, doesn't even mention Nazareth or anything like that. In fact, the Mishnah and neither of the Talmuds, Jerusalem or Babylonian, mention Nazareth as well. So, no, it is not a historical fact that Jesus of Nazareth existed. That doesn't even make sense.
All right, there was one question you didn't answer in there was why, and this is
why do they say that? They say that because the majority of scholars that deal with this topic are personally religious in some way, shape, or form. So in order to have conversations with these people, debates with these people, and be taken seriously by these people, they generally don't rock the boat too much. There are scholars who will say that Jesus and Paul didn't exist, or at the very least that these texts come out in the 2nd century and are very dubious at best. But, I mean... I understand that the majority of people are going to say something because they're currently in academia and their students are going to be religious. If you said that Jesus didn't exist and didn't bring like a ton of receipts to try to back that up, then you're going to piss off a lot of your income source, not only just the departments you work for, but the people who are literally paying that department for classes. In fact, Dan McClellan, who is a current scholar right now and even a Mormon, Dan McClellan actually just made a video about 2 weeks ago saying that the majority of scholarship has to sign a document that says that they are not going to speak against the people who are paying them. And this is an actual Christian scholar who is saying that this is the case because he's seen these disclosures and agreements before. So that's just how that works. Like, I don't know how to tell you that that's how that works.
But the mass majority of the main census is of all historians and scholars that he did exist. And but your counter argument or your rebuttal was you're saying it's a financial reason.
You said why, and I told you why. I mean, I would also say that they're wrong and they're not providing any evidence. They're just kind of saying it because they're relying off of people that existed prior to them. They just give a ton of relevance or a ton of reliability to the early church. But I mean, I don't really care how many people say something, and you shouldn't either, because there was at one point in time, the majority of people said the sun went around the earth, so I don't give a fuck. What I care about is the evidence. What evidence do these people provide?
And you don't consider none of the massive documents of manuscripts and papyruses we have
Like what?
of his life.
Like
what do you mean
what?
of you know the New Testament?
Why would I consider a bunch of copies of a book?
Well, that's what people did back then. How did people record history back then? What did they do?
Does the amount of copies of a book make the book
Oh,
true?
well, no, I'm just asking you. What did people do back then to record history? What did they do?
Sometimes they would chisel into
And
tablets.
it wasn't
Sometimes they would
just
write.
no.
But the amount of copies of something does not make something true.
No. It's not I'm not talking about copies of books though. I'm talking about copies of scripts, scripture, manuscripts.
Sweet,
the Bible is just all those put into one.
The amount of copies of something does not make it true. And considering the fact that the oldest even piece, which would be called a fragment of the New Testament, is P52 or P457, depending on which reference number you're looking at, is held by the John Rylands Research Institute in the library at the University of Manchester, and they date it to 200, the last year of the 2nd century. That doesn't help the story. Like, I don't care about the manuscripts or anything like that. It's the content in it that I care about, and the content does not line up with history.
What about like Tacitus, Flavius, Josephus, like all those other historians and non-Christian ones? Like are they just like you just consider theirs? Like what's your view on their writings of Jesus?
All right, so
they just made it up. Like
so for Josephus in specific, we can tell that it's interpolated by a later Christian. His name is Eusebius, writing a little over 200 years after the death of Josephus. He comes up with the Testimonium Flavianum, which is the paragraph that talks about Jesus and Pilate and crucifixion and miracles and Christians and disciples and resurrection and all that kind of shit. It is something that is added into the text later on. That's just how that works. For Tacitus, we have the same thing, but it's not from Eusebius per se.
So what is your standard of proof for like his figures from back then, even before his time?
My standard of proof?
Like what? Yes.
I mean, it
with
depends.
no video cameras.
Yeah, it depends on our level of assurity or confidence in these different people. It depends on what we have. The best level is going to be archaeological, like if we have their remains or we have their descendants or we have something that they owned or they made or something like that. That would be pretty good, or possibly even like a bust or a statue or something, or something that was made of them that we're able to date, or something that we're able, a physical item that we're able to date that mentions them. That'd be pretty good. Then you get to writings. This is writings from the people that come back stylometrically as them, writings to them, writings about them. This would be really good, like writings from contemporaries. Then you get to people writing after the fact, like after these people are dead, and writing about them in mundane ways. Then there's a whole bunch of dog shit, and then finally you get to the Gospels, which is claims of like magic written over a century after the supposed death of a character. That includes anachronisms, which would be things that are out of place in time and show that the people who are writing it don't know their ass from a hole in the ground when talking about a historical story.
So, I mean, there was a lot said there, but when you look at someone like Alexander the Great, right, and you look at his life and what he did, and then you look at what historians say about him, like what is your point of view on? Now, listen, bro, I'm not coming at you, really. It's just a conversation, honestly, because I'm curious. I'm a very open-minded person, and I challenge my own thoughts. I do. If I believe something, I will go challenge. I will tell ChatGPT to argue against me. You know what I mean? Or try to prove myself wrong. I don't believe everything I hear. So I am curious. Where your point of view is and where you come from. So when you look at someone like that as well, like, do you believe he existed, Alexander the Great?
Yes.
Okay, why? And what's your standard of proof on him?
The Babylonian Astronomical Diary. It's a tablet that we can actually date to his lifetime.
Okay. Oh, so what about King David then? Did King David exist?
Probably not, but maybe.
Okay. What if there was archaeological evidence that proved that he did?
The closest thing we have is something that potentially says his name on the Tel Dan stele. But other than that, nothing.
The what?
The Tel Dan stele.
Okay, and which one is that?
The stele that potentially mentions David?
Yes, the one that was discovered in Israel. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Armenian king, but doesn't it say House of David on there?
Yeah, but it doesn't have spaces the way that other people are mentioned on the rest of the stele. So it's possible that the word that means David is just part of a city name. And to say that it's, at best, you'd have to say in that case that it's a city that's named after him or something, which I guess is fine. But I mean, that doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mention him directly.
What about Pontius Pilate?
Pontius Pilate is real. We have multiple contemporaries,
so
Josephus and Philo of Alexandria, that mention him, and the Pilate stone.
Okay, good. Okay. So you believe Pontius Pilate existed. You just don't believe the stories and the texts written and all the manuscripts what about
the amount of manuscripts does not make it true. You already admitted that, so I don't know why you said the word or the phrase "amount of manuscripts." It doesn't mean anything. On top of that, the only claims that Jesus was somebody who he crucified comes from Christians. We don't have any evidence that anybody else said anything about Pontius Pilate doing that.
Well, would really originally come from the Jews, right?
No.
That's where Christianity came from, right?
No.
There was a Jew. It was for the Jewish. Yeah. Well, what do you mean? Well, Jesus was a Jew, right? Judea. That's where the term Jew comes from.
That's my position. And also on top of that, no, Christianity itself came from like Asia Minor and Egypt. So no.
Egypt. What do you mean? No. So you believe Christianity was born in Egypt?
I did not say that. I said Asia Minor and Egypt would be the places that Christianity evolved.
Okay. So, all right. Well, listen, man. I like I said, I think you thought I was probably coming at you in a disrespectful way earlier, and I wasn't at all. I've
if I thought you were disrespectful, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. You would.
All right. Good. Perfect. I appreciate that, man. But we'll agree to disagree, man. At the end of the day,
that's not how history works. Either we have evidence or we don't. I mean, you can agree to disagree on like a concept or something, but we don't. You just kind of came in here and like presented some stuff and didn't.
Well, that's fine, but I don't
think
that.
That's not how you agree to disagree. You don't just have access to your own facts or something.
An objective? No, wait, hold on. That's an objective fact. There's no evidence at all. That's like an objective statement.
We do not have any evidence that
evidence.
We do not have any evidence that stands up whenever we apply the tools that we have today to suggest that Jesus or Paul existed in the natural form presented by the New Testament.
Okay, and then when I asked you why most historians and scholars agree that he did, your rebuttal was for financial reasons. That's correct.
And ultimately, they don't provide any evidence that I'm not aware of.
Okay. Well, listen, man. Agree. I appreciate you letting me in, man. You guys have a wonderful day, and good luck in life, brother. All right.
Now that's what I call a Texas barbecue.
Alrighty. Let's see here. But the Texas there in the chat. Damn. All right. Nope, $1.99 there on YouTube says, I forgot to use all caps. It's a privilege, y'all. Jesus Christ. And then $1.99 from Elope Note says, Christian crash out in 3, 2, 1. I know he didn't really crash out though, but and then $5 from Akel T says, does any copy or version of Marcion's Evangelion exist? Good question. Technically, a lot to it. Yes, in the sense that we are able to reconstruct it. And also possibly yes, in the sense that depending on your view of a particular papyrus, we may have an actual copy of it. So let me show you here. So Marcion's Evangelion is sometimes known within some scholarly circles as Proto-Luke because it is a text that was utilized by the Gospel of Luke to create its material. So Evangelion is roughly chapters 4 through 22 of Luke. Now, of course, the early Christian church fathers like Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Origen said that Marcion just took what they call a penknife to the Gospel of Luke and cut parts out of it that he didn't like and created his Gospel Evangelion. But Irenaeus mentions that the inverse is what the Marcionites claim. They claim that their Gospel Evangelion came first, and then the Gospel of Luke added to it to make the Gospel of Luke. That's what actually happened. We're able to determine this very, very easily. That's how I know that the Gospel of Luke and the Book of Acts, written by the same person who adds to Evangelion to make Luke, come out in the middle of the 2nd century. But here's where a lot of the stuff comes up. So later on, Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Origen, these 3 church fathers, talk so much shit about talk so much shit about Marcion that we're able to reconstruct what they had. In fact, Tertullian actually goes verse by verse saying what Evangelion had. As well as Apostolicon, the letters of Paul that Marcion publishes in 144. Point is, we are able to determine what's in there pretty close. Now, there's some terms that I feel like are probably used by the people who are talking about him, the more terms that they're familiar with than terms that are actually supposed to be in there, but I digress. The point is, we have a pretty good idea as to what was in Evangelion based off of these reconstructions. So we have those. But because of the fact that the Gospel of Luke used Evangelion, we're actually able to take a look at, for instance, Papyrus 69. Nice. Sorry.
Nice.
And Papyrus 69 is actually a document that could be the Gospel of Luke or Marcion's Evangelion. We just got to try to figure that out. It says, scholars have debated whether its text is a witness to the Gospel of Marcion, also known as Evangelion, or the canonical Gospel of Luke. And that's because the material in it, it's just like a certain section that could be in both of them, or was in both of them. So they don't know which one exactly it was. So a lot of fun there. A lot of fun. So, very good question though. I definitely would say that that's a fun one there. So the answer is, because your question is, does a copy or version of Marcion's Evangelion exist? The answer is yes, in a way, and also yes, possibly. Edward's Dilemma, $1.99 says, oh, Jesus, how in the quiche did the guest pronounce words? Now you're using that word as just like a everyday like curse word. Like, what the hell? All right, $5 there from Mycroft. I think Mycroft Side Quest. Mycroft, I think. Says, what are your opinions on Jesus being based on known revolutionaries like Judas the Galilean? So it's possible. It's entirely possible that some of that influenced the stories for the Jesus there in the New Testament. That's possible. I'm not opposed to that kind of concept, but to say that Jesus is him is weird. I'm at least saying that the Jesus that's presented in the New Testament, that natural Jesus, didn't exist. If you want to point to different people who actually existed as potential influences, that's fine. But the guy that's presented in the New Testament as doing all of this himself is definitely not a real person. And I'm not even considering the supernatural stuff. Something that you might find interesting is where I think they get the name Jesus, and that is from a book in the Catholic Bible known as Sirach, all right, or Wisdom of Sirach, Book of Sirach, or sometimes Ecclesiasticus. It is written by a man named, I'll actually pull this back up here really fast. It is written by a man named Jesus ben Sirach, or Jesus, son of Sirach. You'll actually see it up there. Ecclesiasticus, or the Wisdom of Jesus, son of Sirach. Now, this was written in Hebrew in the early 2nd century BCE and translated by the author's grandson in the late 2nd century BCE to Greek. And then in the 130s, about 10 years before we get the first gospel published, Rabbi Akiva says that he tries to ban the reading of it and says that Jewish people were starting, certain people, heretics, were starting to use the Wisdom of Sirach in their own weird way. So he tried to ban the reading of it. So, yeah, kind of interesting there, how it just all kind of comes together. And I would imagine all that it is just a bunch of stories, or not stories, but like teachings and stuff. And Jesus echoes some of them, and we can tell that some of the books at least the first gospel that's published has in Greek the first line, or not the first line, an entire line of 6 words in a row that is taken from Sirach. So that shows that it's using it as a source. So there's a lot of influence that comes into it. But I wouldn't say that this is Jesus. He's not even alive near the time of Pilate or anything like that. So it's tough. You can very clearly find influences on Jesus, but that doesn't mean that the Jesus that they're talking about is that person, if that makes sense. All right. Let's see here. But very good question. Very good question there, Mycroft. All right, so Johnny Fitness. Johnny Fitness.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You may want to get rid of me right away. I'm not here to argue with you, but I just like to find out. I find you fascinating, super informative. Okay, I'm a Christian, but I don't want to get into that debate back and forth and everything. But I just like to find out a little bit about you. I do find you very interesting, fascinating, full of knowledge. Could I just ask you, who do you think? How were we created? What is your viewpoint on that? I'm interested in you more than anything. I think a lot of people are interested in you and where you're coming from. I really do.
So, what does that have to do with the topic, though?
It has nothing to do with. That's what I say. You'll probably delete it right off the bat. I'm just interested in you. I think a lot of people are interested in you and where you came about with all your beliefs. It's about you. Maybe you probably don't want to do that. You want to stay on the topic.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't like to really get up here and talk about myself or something like that.
Okay,
but
so
like my denomination, that kind of thing, doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not Jesus existed or Paul existed. I can tell you right now that the religious category, the religion, if you will, that I'm part of, generally does not have a problem with Jesus existing. So it doesn't have anything to do with my religion or anything like that.
Okay, but do you believe in God? Period. Or are you an atheist or?
Dude, again, the religious category that I am in, the religion that I am a part of, generally speaking, does not have a problem with Jesus or Paul existing. So when I get up here and talk about this kind of thing, it's not from a religious standpoint.
Okay, you just strictly prove the evidence. Okay, I was just saying,
which makes sense. I mean, obviously, if you're Christian, I assume that, correct me if I'm wrong, I assume that you believe that Jesus and Paul existed 2,000 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, I do, but that's my own belief.
Well, yeah,
and I'm not
but like, what was it that like convinced you of this? Not to become a Christian, but the idea that they existed 2,000 years ago. What was the evidence that was presented?
The evidence was a personal experience of what I experienced with Jesus Christ in my life versus.
So did he show you something 2,000 years ago?
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
Well,
no, I'm just talking about God.
Well, that's fine. But like you said that you believe that Jesus and Paul existed 2,000 years ago. What was the evidence you had of that? You having an experience with Jesus, cool. If he's sitting next to you, dap him up and tell him I said what's up. But that doesn't. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not he existed 2,000 years ago, run around in Judea. What was the evidence that convinced you of that part? Is what I'm asking.
Okay, well, that's the part I don't want to debate with you or argue about it.
But you believe in it, like, and I mean, 1 Peter 3:15 says you should always be prepared to give a defense of why you believe what you believe when questions are demanded of you, and do so respectfully.
I guess I'm just an idiot then if I can't come up with what you're asking me. I'm just talking about.
I mean, it's not that you're an idiot. I didn't call you an idiot. There was obviously something that you heard that convinced you of something happening 2,000 years ago, and I'd like to know what that was that convinced you of something in the past. That obviously doesn't have anything to do with your lifetime, unless you're an archaeologist or a scientist or something.
Okay, again, I don't think you're comprehending what I'm saying. It's my own personal experience of existing without God and having God.
Yeah, but your
in my
personal
life.
experience is somehow connected to 2,000 years ago, or is your
No,
are you
sir.
saying that
No,
it's an
not
experience
at
that you
all.
had during your lifetime?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all, sir.
Okay, so
Sir.
then how did you? I'm trying to tell you that these are two different things, and you keep talking about your personal life. I don't want to get into your personal life. I don't care about your personal
I
life.
understand that.
I don't want you talking about mine, and I don't want to talk about yours. I'm asking,
okay.
What is the
Okay.
evidence you had presented to you that convinced you of something 2,000 years ago? What was that? Like you can believe in Jesus, you can believe in God, you can believe in whatever you want today. I don't care. I'm wondering the 2,000 years ago part. What was that?
Okay, sir. Out of respect,
Yeah.
I contacted you
Uh-huh.
to find out a little bit more about you, which you don't
Right.
want to talk about.
Right.
You don't want to talk about
Yeah,
what
and
you believe
I
in.
don't care about like
that's
your
it.
current beliefs or anything either. I mean, we're just talking about history. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Okay, well, I guess you'll probably dump me. Okay, you're talking to
I
the
haven't
wrong
dumped
guy.
you yet,
I
man.
was
You've already said this 3 times. Just all we're looking for is what convinced you of this old story, the 2,000-year-old part.
I get it, but you don't get what I'm saying, sir.
Well, are you saying
Okay.
that you don't have evidence for it? That you just kind of believed it when someone told you it happened? Or are you saying you have evidence, but you don't want to give it?
My evidence is what I've learned by reading the Word, the Bible.
Okay, that's fine. And so what did you
Okay.
learn that said that this was 2,000 years ago and it was reliable? Like,
Okay.
what was it that you
I
learned that
can't-
convinced you?
I can't come up with that because you want physical, you want historical.
Well, I mean, what
proof.
was it? Stop. Don't give me anything about any mumbo jumbo about how you met Jesus or had a spiritual encounter. Unless he took you 2,000 years into the past and showed you the evidence that he existed 2,000 years ago on the earth, then your spiritual encounter doesn't have anything to do with 2,000 years ago. But you're saying you read the book, and that's fine. Where in the book did it provide evidence that you felt like was just very solid, more so than just any other like religion's claim of the past or something?
I can't come up with that evidence that you're
You can't?
asking. No, I can't.
So you just
I can't
believed
come
the
up with
book
that.
because it said it. Otherwise, I mean, do you believe in like Mormonism? Do you believe that like?
No, I don't believe in any
Okay.
kind of religion. Okay.
Okay. But you believe that Jesus and Paul existed 2,000 years ago. Even set aside the religion, okay. Where'd you hear the idea? Where'd you hear the idea of Jesus and Paul 2,000 years ago if you're not following a religion?
Okay. Again, sir, I can't come up with that. I can't answer that question. I don't know where.
Did you have a spiritual encounter with Paul?
A spiritual connection with God. G-O-D.
Did you have a spiritual connection with Paul?
No, not at all.
So why do you think
Not
he
at all.
existed?
I can't.
You
Accept
didn't even
what
have a
I've
spiritual
read.
you didn't even have spiritual connection with him. Like how?
Hey, bro. I was just interested.
Well, like a
in
God,
you.
that's fine. You had a spiritual connection. I could almost accept like a Jesus, like today, I guess, if you think Jesus existed because you had a spiritual connection or some kind of conversation with him. But you didn't even have a conversation with Paul spiritually. How did you get to Paul existing then?
Sir,
I mean,
I was more
you
interested.
didn't even argue the spiritual connection with Paul. How did we get to Paul?
Okay, well, listen, you're 100% right, and I'm 100% wrong. Okay, well, let's leave it
it's
that
not
way.
that you're wrong.
I have
it's
no
just that
evidence.
I want you to approach your life in a way that says,
you're not
unless I
gonna
have
give me the
evidence for
change my
something, I
mind.
don't need to say something. Like, unless you have evidence for something, you don't just fall for anything, man. That's weird. Like,
I'm not just falling for anything.
yeah, you
sir.
are, because
No-
you're saying
no, I'm
told
not.
me
That's
that
your
you
opinion.
believe. No, you told me that you believe that Paul existed 2,000 years ago, but you never had any kind of spiritual connection where Paul told you this or you met Paul, and you don't have any way to show me that Paul actually existed back then. You just believed it because it was in a book. But then again, you don't even really believe in a religion, and it was very clearly one religion that talks about Paul. He's not mentioned in any other religion. So I don't know where you're getting the idea of Paul. He's literally never mentioned outside of Christianity, but you don't follow Christianity. I don't know where you got him. I mean,
Okay,
you didn't meet him yourself in the spiritual way. You don't follow Christianity, and they're the only people who talk about him. And you can't show me any other way that you got to him.
Okay, sir. I just asked about you. That's why I came
but,
up.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe you should at the very least, what you should do is say, hey, if I don't have good evidence to believe something, I should at least set it aside and don't make any statements over whether or not I believe it or not, unless there's evidence that presents itself. Keep looking for the evidence. Keep digging.
I'll take your lecture, sir, and I'll take notes, and I'll try to be a better person coming up with what you want me to say. Okay?
It's not so much what I want you to say, it's what
bro.
you find.
Hey, bro. Good luck to you, man. Good luck to you. God bless you. That's all I can say. Have a good day.
All right. That was Johnny Fitness, everybody. Johnny Fitness bullshit into my brain. All right. What is going on?
Hello.
Bunch of letters that are taking a nap. What's going on?
Yeah. I'm a Moroccan guy.
Oh, hey,
So-
you're probably ecstatic right now because of the World Cup and shit.
Yeah. No. I'm not a football follower, so no, don't worry. It's
Really?
a drug for people. Yeah.
It's a drug. It's a sport.
It's a sport. Yes, I know. It's a sport. I prefer to play the sport than to see people playing the sport. But okay, it's
prefer to
okay
make the drugs,
to
not
see
do
the cups, etc. But once people are like the only thing in their lives is what's the result of the game is. I believe that it's something that is wrong.
No, okay. So, in other words, something that goes on that you're not even really a part of, and you're basing your like life on whether or not it's
My priorities
So,
are
anyways,
not
please
this.
come up here and tell me about how Jesus and Paul actually existed.
Okay. I'm Muslim. I'm a Muslim, but
All right.
Sorry.
I mean,
just give me a chance.
Do you
Give me a
not?
chance.
Do you not see the irony here?
Give me a chance. Just yeah.
No.
But
It has
no-
nothing to do with the fact that you're Muslim specifically.
Just-
What you had just said is that like tying yourself to something that you don't really have any part over or anything that you don't have any control over, and tying your life to that is dumb as shit. So naturally,
Yes.
you're religious
Because
and you've tied
because-
yourself to something that you don't have any control
Ah,
over.
yeah. Yes, but I'm naming myself this like I'm saying I'm Muslim, but
Yeah.
most of Muslims are believing more Lucifer than God. Sorry to tell it it's like Jews, Christians, and Muslims are not following the book, the initial book. They are following what a guy came after the book and imposed his beliefs. For example, the Jews
Did a
are
guy not write the first book?
No. Let's
think for a
Let me
second.
just explain the base of my understanding.
Dude, look.
No, just give me just one chance. Just to explain my.
Reek of irony. Absolutely, man. You shit all over sports fans, and then you're like, I'm a fan of a religion, and then you talk about the religion, and you're like, oh, these people are following a man, not the book. I follow the book, which was written by a man.
Yeah. Okay. So if you are comparing sports to religion, it's a different thing. But just one thing, please. Just hear me. The Jews are not following the Torah. They are following the Talmud.
Who cares? Why? Who cares?
The
a person
Christian-
wrote
the-
either both of those things, or
Yeah,
people
okay,
wrote both
okay.
of those. Who cares?
Christians are not following Jesus. They are following Paul.
Sweet,
as you said.
cool. Both Jesus and Paul were both presented by Marcion, the same fucking guy.
Okay, so Muslims are not following God or Muhammad or the prophet who came with the message. They are following other guys that are saying a completely different message.
So in other words, if you follow a guy, that's stupid. What you need to be doing is following a guy.
No.
You're following. So in other words, you're just saying you're following the wrong guy, not.
No. I'm just reading.
You're saying instead of following the prophet, they're following someone else.
No,
Okay,
I'm
well,
reading
tell
the
me why
text.
the prophet needs to be followed.
I'm reading the text. When I see that the text is
What text?
clear, for example,
text?
in the Quran. I don't know if you read the Quran or not.
Cool. Okay,
But
okay.
But for example,
Quick question. Yeah, it's just yes or no. Did a man write the Quran?
no.
And what is your evidence of this? Is that what it says in the Quran? Is that it wasn't written by a man, and so you kind of believed it?
Yes. This is why it's called belief.
When a book says something, it must be true, especially when the book says that it's not written by people who write books.
You can't say that. You can't say that. No.
Yeah.
You can't say that. When I'm talking about a book, when
So
you read the
how
book,
did you determine that the
where
Quran
the
was
book
not
is
written by
saying
a man?
You have to be kind with people. You have to.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
earth-
How did
For
you
example,
determine that
I'm
the
going-
Quran was
you know,
not
I'm
written
going
by a
to
man?
go-
How did you determine that? How did you determine that?
You have to find that this book is not wrong. That it's
Yeah, okay,
No,
really
that's-
quick.
no,
Does sperm come?
man, yeah,
Does
it's
sperm come from between the rib cage and the spine, or does it come from the balls? yeah, crickets.
No, it's not crickets.
Okay,
but
yeah, dude.
You know,
All right. So, what is
you
your
are
evidence
asking
that?
me
What is
knowing
your
what my
evidence?
answer is.
What is your
If that-
evidence that the
No,
Quran
but
was not
you
written
know
by
that-
men? What's your
No,
evidence? What is your
just
evidence
because you-
that the Quran was not written by men or a male?
Because there is a lot of mathematical. For me, I'm a lover of mathematical.
Cool. And people obviously can't write mathematical things. That's impossible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But there are some things that are very difficult for people, especially when there are no computers, there are no chat.
There's not a single thing
No,
that the Quran
this
gets
is
right
your
that
problem,
hasn't been
man.
already
This
talked
is
about
why
prior to it.
this
That's
is
how it
why
works.
you are
But
telling
that being
crickets.
said,
Because you are sarcastic. You are not serious
okay,
in your
all right.
discussion.
We're going to go ahead and move on because it's very clear that you have nothing to add to this
what-
conversation.
You know,
Okay.
man.
All right,
Just
tell your mother I said
just
hey.
wanted to tell you.
All right. We're moving on to somebody else because that guy was not getting it whatsoever. The Quran does not give us any kind of scientifical new shit that hasn't already been said before by usually multiple people and presented hundreds, if not thousands of years prior. It's not how that works. On top of that, it does make mistakes, which is why I asked him specifically where sperm comes from, because the Quran says that the sperm comes between a place between the rib cage and the spine. No, that's not how that works. Now, some people might say, well, yeah, if you're looking from the top down, yeah, bitch, everything's between the spine and the rib cage. If you're looking from the top down, why even fucking say anything? The point is, yeah, it gets things wrong, and the things that it does get right has already been known for quite some time. It's not ahead of its time, really, in any way, shape, or form. The Quran comes from humans, because that's where all books come from. So, not a lot of good that guy even really brought us there. So, if we take a quick look here at the super chats, we've got $1.99 from a lope note there. In fact, let me go ahead and round all these up here. We've got $5.97, I think. $5.97 there. Says, I'm interested in you. There's a reason why you are the crazy ex-girlfriend. We still heart our crazy ex-girlfriend. I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm scared. All right. And then $5 from Defucha. Oh, okay. Defucha. Yeah. Nice. Defucha. Says, Jesus is the most documented figure in human history. End of discussion. Okay. So the biggest religion on the planet has a character, and you think because they talk about him a lot, he must be real? That's how that works. And also, no, the earliest document that we have about Jesus shows up in 144. So, no, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Most documented figure, or you're just talking about like how many times he's written about in like copies of manuscripts. I guess Harry Potter is also real because he's talked about more than other figures. It's not how that works. That is not how that works at all. All right. No one knows what it means. It's provocative. It gets the people going. All right. Your crazy ex-girlfriend is in the YouTube chat and mad at you. Mad at me? Why? What happened? Let me take a look. What? Okay, what's going on? Sorry, I was on the other thing. I had to click out of it. Wait, what? I'm trying to find it. Okay, there we go. How dare you, Jaren? And then you said men. How dare me what? What happened? Oh, my darling. I don't know what's happening. She's a member? I don't know what's happening. I have no idea. What? You didn't recognize her name? Oh. Did she say something and I didn't know her name or something? I don't. Oh, like in the super chat? Yeah, I know, but I don't know why a Lope Note mentioned her. It just said $1.99 there. There's a reason why you're the crazy ex-girlfriend. We still heart our crazy ex-girlfriend. I know who crazy. Yeah, your crazy ex-girlfriend is a member, but I don't know why they're referring to me as the crazy ex-girlfriend, or unless they're using a super chat to talk to somebody else in the chat, which is weird. Why would you do that? I'm so confused. I don't know why, but we are playing in the chat. Oh, okay. See, look it. Okay. Alopno says we love it when Jaren gets confused. Okay, you're using a super chat to talk to somebody else. I thought you were talking to me, and I don't know why you would call me this. No, your crazy ex-girlfriend is in the chat, not me. This is hurting my brain. Yes. All right. I was like, did I say something that about your crazy ex-girlfriend? I don't think I did. Otherwise, or other than the super chat. All right. So, if anybody has any evidence for Jesus or Paul, please request up. If you're on YouTube, you can click the link there in the chat and come over here on TikTok. Let's see. Okay. $2, Xenolapudre. This message is for Dr. Ojim. Hashtag queefing for Christ. Okay. That message clearly states that it is for somebody else. Okay. Your crazy ex-girlfriend says, I'll never get mad at you, Jaren. You just did. What is happening? Again. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. $2.79 Canadian from Serenity Serpent. Hey, says, hey, Queefy, not Jaren. JK. People are using. Okay. So we have now reached the point where people are using super chats to be read by me for someone else. What are you guys doing? That's not what I imagined that super chats would be used for. And then $4.99 from Giovanni Vargas says, change your username to crazy ex-girlfriend, please. The confusion is too much. My username? I don't even know who that's person's talking about. This is somehow worse than me saying that word that everybody puts in there. I mean, I said I would read the messages because I don't want people to spend money sending messages and not have them read aloud. Okay. You're like Western Union with a yeah, that's basically what it is. Like someone's paying to deliver a message to somebody else and I don't even know who they're talking to. All right. Oh my God, there's $2 there from Tucson Keg that says, tell Mezzo that I say hi to Joel. I don't even think Mezzo's here. Is Mezzo here? All right. What is going on? Mohammed or Hamid?
Yeah, my name is Muhammad.
Okay.
I'm good. How about you?
Doing good. What you got, man?
So I was listening to the previous guy. He's a Muslim as well, but I think your main topic about Jesus, right? That they never existed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same goes for the Muslims as you perceive them, right?
What? What do you mean? What are you trying to say there?
I mean, do you think that all religion are made up by writers of books, or how you perceive them? because if you
What
want
does
to
that have
think
to do with
about
whether or not Jesus and Paul existed?
that's the thing, because I think there is only one way you would come to a realization of what's going on if you go back to the ancient history, all the way to the Sumerian, and that's even before the ancient Egyptian. And if you track it back all the way to now, I think you will come to a conclusion. I don't force it into you, but you will come to a conclusion. There is literally
Please
two
don't force it into
doctrines.
me.
Now, the first doctrine is that you have the God who sent the Bible, the Torah, the
Sweet.
Quran,
Okay.
and
So
then you have.
we are way into the weeds. What does this have to do with whether or not Jesus and Paul existed?
But that's my point, because the ones who actually started to kind of question the existence of Jesus, it's with an intention to kind of falsify the religion from its roots, so you don't anymore question.
I'm going to be honest with you, Chief. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I really don't. You're just kind of saying things. Land the plane. How does this have anything to do with Jesus and Paul's existence?
Because if you can prove the people or make the people question whether Jesus existed or not, that's an easy way to just proclaim the fact that, well, all your religion is false, so that you have to move on. But where to move on from it? That's so you need to see who are promoting for this kind of ideas, because this is not just in Christianity.
What are you talking about?
Also in
what are you talking
Islam.
about? This doesn't have anything to do with Jesus or Paul's existence, man. Like, what is going on? It's just land the plane.
I will give you an example. I will give you.
Stop giving me examples.
I'll give you an example.
Don't give me an example. Just cut to your point. Just get to your point and just say it, like, succinctly.
There is a guy. He has a documentary, and he speaks about how actually Prophet Muhammad didn't exist. He's just a fictional character. Another, he speak about that Mecca, it was not actually where it's located.
Okay.
Although,
okay. And so that has to do with Jesus and Paul. How?
That's the same people who are promoting, because I've collected some, kind of references for those people who are proclaiming such things. And they are always targeting all these most known religion in the same manner. So they
Dear God,
right
dude! Like, do you know what the word succinct means? Like shortly, like efficiently. Please, for the love of Darwin, just make your fucking point and make it quickly.
If you yeah. So basically, the people who are opposing the God who sent the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, they have a systematic way of targeting those religion by making people question even their fundamental symbols.
Okay, why do I care about that? Why do I care about that? What's the issue here?
If you understand, if you understand how these people are operating, you will understand what's the end goal of what they are trying to do.
Who gives a shit about their end goal? Did Jesus exist or not?
Of course, Jesus existed.
Okay, then what's your evidence for that? God fucking damn it, dude. Just give me your evidence and just move on. I don't care about what you think the motives are of people who question it. Just give me the evidence. If he existed, he existed. What's the evidence he existed? Jesus Christ.
So after understanding where this question comes from, or this questioning of whether Jesus exists or not, now to prove it, there's two ways. Either you will have to trust, the archives from the first Christian, from the early first Christian, all the way how Christianity progressed, and even they changed the teaching of
or the
Jesus,
other option. God, man. Yeah. I don't
have
any idea as to how you function in everyday society, man. Like, you take 10-second things and turn it into a good 20 minutes. Go ahead and just, what's
But
the other option?
you have
So
to
either you
understand the
trust,
fundamentals.
you trust the Christians, or what's the
Yeah.
second option?
The second option is that when you collect enough information about those who are trying to falsify the existence of these prophets, and
Like who?
have a speak
Like who?
with them, because I
Who?
already had.
Who?
Well, I can tell you from my own encounter with the Freemasons and real official Illuminati. I'm not just
Damn
like
it,
just
dude!
some
Like,
fake people.
no,
Real
there's
official
no
Illuminati.
evidence that Freemasons
They
and
will come.
Illuminati and everything like that were in the first century and stuff like that. That's dumb as shit, dude. Like, not at all. Like, I don't know
No,
how you ended up falling into some weird like Muslim conspiracy or something like that. It sounds like it's bizarre, but you haven't given me any
Not
evidence for
really.
Jesus.
Let
You're
me
just
tell-
kind of saying nonsense. You're just kind of saying words like
I'm
some
telling
kind
you,
of crazy conspiracy theory word salad.
I'm trying to tell you that there is two ways to come to realization
And
of
neither one of
what
those is how
happened
you
back
get
in
to
history.
somebody existing in history. Because the Christians don't actually provide any evidence that any of their claims are from eyewitness testimonies or anything like that. They don't let you write about Jesus until over 100 years after he died, so that's not any good. And the second thing that you said was something about like the people who go after him trying to falsify the claims of him or something like that, which is like, as you mentioned, the Illuminati and the Freemasons, which is even dumber. So no, you said, hey, we can take option 1, which is bullshit, or option 2, which is even bigger bullshit. And I'm not choosing
I can
either
ask
one
you
of
a
them.
question, please.
Yeah.
I can ask you a question. Do you know the name of your grandfather, which is, let's say, 4 or 5 generations before now?
That doesn't have anything to do with the topic that we have. But congratulations, you're
But
wasting
the-
everybody's
but-
time. You've been up here for 8 minutes, dude, just
No,
kind of
but-
prattling on about nothing.
No, but if you understand my point, it means that if you don't remember anything about him, it
It
doesn't
wouldn't
mean
make
that
any
he didn't
sense for me to
exist,
remember him. I wasn't alive. That doesn't make any sense.
That's my point. That's my point. But you still exist, so it means that he existed somehow.
Well,
right?
yeah, and
That's
unless
my
you can
point.
say that we have
Sometimes
descendants of Jesus, then your argument is dumb as shit and doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Do we have descendants of Jesus?
I mean, all what I'm saying
Do
is,
we have
if
descendants of
Christianity
Jesus? Yes
exists,
or no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in his teaching, we have, because otherwise, from
Okay.
where it's
Yeah, that guy's a fucking moron. All right, we're moving on from that guy. It had nothing to offer to this conversation. All right, 2 pounds there from Neptune Cult says, "May the celestial lesbian penguins bless you and chat." Okay. I'm confused. $1.99 says from Lotnope says, "Penguin Squad cinematic pause assemble." My God, $2 there. Finally, okay. Liminal Queen Media says, "Yeehaw!" Grabbed your book on Amazon or from Amazon. Thank you. Finally, a super chat that makes sense to me. I can actually understand what that person is getting at. There for a while, both the super chats and the guest didn't make any sense at all. Jesus Christ. I don't know what that was. Yeah, as Kapow in the TikTok chat says, we don't need to know them. We are direct descendants of them. We are the evidence that our great grandparents existed. Like, that's how we know that they existed, is because we exist. That's how sex works. But you can't make that argument for Jesus. I mean, the argument, like the whole like weird argument of like lineage and stuff like that, like your ancestry, that is 100% based on the idea that like it's an assumption of apologists that people who say that Jesus didn't exist or this person didn't exist or whatever are saying it simply because they can't see it or because they don't have any evidence of it or anything like that, like any physical evidence. Like, I don't have physical evidence of my grandfather. Like, I don't, but that doesn't mean he didn't exist. I am the evidence. I don't have any other physical evidence for him. But people are like, oh, you don't see him, you never met him, so therefore, I guess, according to you, he didn't exist. No, that's not how that works. I'm not making the argument that I've never met Jesus, so therefore he didn't exist. That would be stupid of me. So it's really just a straw man. They're just attacking a straw man argument. It's stupid. Then $1.99 from the prototype 1619 just says queef. We are right back. We are right back to the I don't understand this portion of the super chat. Oh my God. Rich says, by the way, assuming they're all unique, you'd have 256 great. Oh, wow. Grandfather. Yeah, 200. Oh, wow, that's a ton. Matthew Lewis Doran says, still, by the time he got it out, we'd have gone through many more grandfathers. That's true. Yeah, that guy was just kind of prattling on forever. It was really weird. Jesus' son Ron, I think, says, might as well add M. Muhammad never lived either. He did. So I don't know what to tell you there. Sorry. $1.99 from Hardwork8395 says, your book was amazing, just like... Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where you were going there with that there, hard work. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Mine says, the Bible has been heavily scrutinized. Jesus lives? Or Jesus lives, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, Jesus and my great grandfather existence are two very different things. It's very true. It's very, very true. It's very true. Jesus started doing lives. If Jesus started doing lives, I think I'd probably watch just to see what was going on there. Joe Feeses, yes. Amazingly, only one person. Oh, let's get back to that, guys. So we have Joe Feces on here. Let me actually fix that F there. There you go. Joe Feces. Okay. And then there you go. There we go. Okay. That's a little better, I think. I don't know. It's whatever. It's a market board. It's not going to be perfect. Idiot. Asshole. Anyways. So we got Joe Feces. Who else do we need? Who else do we need on this board? Let's see. The E should be an I? What? Get out of here. Okay. Knicks fans? Knicks fans? What are you talking about? So Tacitus. But how are we going to spell Tacitus? Tacitus. Tacticus is probably the most common. Let's see. We're going to go. God damn it. That just made it worse. All right. Tacticus. I'll put two S's there. Tacticus. There we go. Tacticus. No, we're not putting that word in there, Dr. Ojim. We're not doing that. Even though it probably would be a pretty good idea to actually put it on there on the board somewhere. All right, so we got Joe Feces, we got Tacticus. Socrates is good. Do we want Socrates? Okay, so I'm thinking like right below them, two more. What two out of these three? Which do we want? No, sorry, out of these four, which two do we want? Julius Caesar, George Washington, Alexander the Great, Socrates. In my opinion, it needs to be Alexander the Great and George Washington. It's got to be Alexander the Great's got to go up on that list. Got to go up on there. Yeah, it's got to go. What do we want? Is it just Alex, I guess? I don't know. Yeah. All right. We got Alex the Great on there. Alex the Great's going to be yeah. So we got Alex the Great. I don't know if it's too terribly visible. I'll hold this thing right whenever you. I don't know how. It just looks kind of stupid. And George, do we need George? I think we need George. We need George on here somewhere. We'll put George like down here. George. George W. W. The original W. All right. So we've got Alex the Great. We got George. I think maybe like down near the bottom. I would maybe. I would maybe put like the Q word. Maybe. Should we? Alex the meh. All right. Should we put the Q word down here? I'm not gonna spell the Q word. I'm just gonna put Q, and not the Q that you guys are thinking of. You ingrates. You deplorables. All right. And by the way, I did see the super chat there. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, the super chat dollar sign CBJ book. Somebody sent $5 and said, for it's only. Oh no, they said it's only a queef if it's moist. You guys are animals. All right, so we'll just put like a Q down here. A Q source. Yeah, here we go. We're gonna just. Wait, hold up. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay, it'll just be down there, over there in the corner. There's a Q count over here. You'll just have to understand that it's down there. It's down there. All right, it's down there, and we'll get to it. We will get to the Qs. All right, we'll get to it. All right, so we got Joe Feces, Tacticus. We got Alex the Great, George W. Not that one, the other one, and not that one either. The other one, and then Q. And there's so much room for activities over here, but we'll figure that out as we'll go along. And we may end up like having to erase this stuff because it might prove to be actually too successful. I mean, hell, for the most part, I think both of these were actually mentioned today. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'm not going to mention all the times that like that, or I'm not even going to worry about that right now. But at least one today. Alex, great. There's one. I'm not going to mention anything about the Qs today. Starting now, the Qs can be counted. Animals. Your mom could be a good tally. Oh, that would be interesting. George Herbert Walker. Okay. All right. Let's get really fast over there to the super chats. We got $5 from Yana. Says, I'm only here because I wanted to send a super chat for once too. Oh, well, thank you very much, Yana. Going back to TikTok now, hashtag queef. Fucking, all right. Like you were fine until the very end. I don't know why you decided to just all of a sudden just like go like why? What did I do to you, Yana? I didn't do anything to you. Anyways, $4.99 from Tracy, formerly Ianto, says, ever been rode hard and put away wet? Taint. Oh. Whew! What the hell?
What the hell?
Okay, anyways. Woo! All right. Well, Tracy, formerly Anto, is just coming in coming in hot. We got a wet, hot American summer in here, guys. Okay. And then, hey, 49. Got $49.99 there from, Tracy, formerly Anto, says, for all the super chat pervy comments. Well, yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to read them out. I mean, depending on how the comments go, I mean, there's sometimes that I wish I hadn't have said that, but you read what you got. I mean, you just read them. You just kind of, yeah. So, yeah. I'm now. Hopefully, that is to make up for some things, and we're now going to move forward in a more civilized way, if you will. But we'll find out. But thank you very, very much, obviously, from the bottom of my heart and from Matthew's heart as well, who, by the way, has been making some amazing strides in this next book. We've already added like an entire section, a couple new sections now, so it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So you're gonna have a lot of fun with the next one. All right. Whoops. And then let's see here. Then we have. Anyways, hopefully we can get back to normal though. Give me 1 second here. Ended up messing with the thing there. Okay. And then we have. What the hell? Okay, from $2.79 Canadian there from Serenity Servant, we have queef, qua, which I can only assume is some kind of weird French Canadian word there at the end that just kind of means etc. Oh my god. $1.99 from the prototype 1619 that says says queeferton queef. What the fuck is wrong with you people? $5 from Squiggling It says Christ before Queefus. $1.99 from Matthew Martz 272 that says greatest portmanteau ever, Joe Queefus. Joe Queefus. $2 from Liquid or something says Socrates and Tacitus. I try hard to not only educate, but to have fun around here. And you animals. All right. Right back over there, we get, let's see, $2.79 Canadian from Kazak. I didn't know he was Canadian. Did I know that? Says they didn't include a message. I don't even know what that said. I don't even know what that's about. $2 from Mazkin12 says, oh my god, you too? A, 2, D, A, 2. Says hashtag queef for Christ. $5 from Zeno the Budre says the queefs will always win. Jorkub, the queefs will always win. Fitifis. And then just says it in Norwegian as if I don't know what the fuck that is. $9.99 from a Jim 12 says thought I should contribute to the queef count. Queefs for Christ. Okay, I'm gonna have to keep a count of this, and then $1.99 from, and thank you very much to Dr. Jim for the $9.99. Thank you. Animals. $1.99 from Hardwork8395 says playing the Tunger. That's actually kind of, I actually kind of like that one. All right, so I've got to go back up here and start taking these down here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And like a half from Serenity Serpent. You guys are animals. All right. And then another 4 from the prototype. One from Swiggling It. 2 from Matthew Martz. This is awful. What is wrong with you people? I can't even, okay, and then another one from Mazakine. Ultimate betrayal here. Zeno, let's see, another 2 from him. Ridiculous. And then another one from, 2 from Dr. Ajim. All right, Mazakine 2, these will be good compilations, LOL, evil laugh. No, it won't. No, it will not. $1.99 from Dr. Jim says demonks. Okay. And I've got to read your message. Do moms queef a lot? I've got to say it out loud, and then I've got to put it down. This is. I don't even know what's going on anymore. All right, if anybody has evidence for Jesus or Paul, please come up and save me from whatever nonsense is going on here. Please, for the love of God, please have evidence for Jesus. I am praying. Bring me evidence for Jesus. Please.
When the fuck did we get ice cream?
Yeah, I know. I know. It needs to be harder stuff. Okay. Okay. Anyways. Why do you want evidence so bad? I want evidence because I want this stuff to, I want to know that Jesus existed or Paul existed. I want to know that this is actually true. Blue Hurricane says, Jaren, it would go this way, but that's how. That's awful. Yeah, you are, Izzy Mike. You need to save me from this madness.
Arby's, we have the meats.
That's why they call him Black Salami.
Oh, shit.
All right. Let's see. Luna says... All right. Hylian Ruler. Let's see. Well, it says, stop asking humans and ask God. Well, 1 Peter 3:15 says you should always be prepared. You know what? I'm actually going to show this. Look. 1 Peter 3:15. It says that you should always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. That was from Gray Eyes. That's a particular translation that I usually don't say, but same thing. Give a reason for it. Give me a reason for why you think that Jesus or Paul existed 2,000 years ago. Come on up. Come on up. All right. Let's see. They're on YouTube. If you click the link in the chat, you can come up on TikTok. And TikTok is how I take guests. If you don't have a TikTok or anything like that, you can send a super chat. I will read it and respond to it. So yeah, and yes, elope, nope, I did see that. Yeah, $1.99. You finally got that scrolling. Yes, thanks to Gray Eyes. Gray Eyes helped me out there. Chaos Engine as well kind of gave me some pointers as well. So big shout out to Gray Eyes and then to Chaos Engine Gaming. So thank you very, very much, guys. Thank you. All right. So, let's see. I think we've got someone who's coming up. I think. Hopefully. Tubman, are you there?
Hi.
Oh.
Yeah, Tubman. Hi.
Hey, there it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What you got for us?
Oh, I don't believe Jesus existed either because after I'm reading your book, well, in my book club at the moment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We're reading your book in our book club at the moment, and I just had a question, if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, lay it on me. What you got?
I think since, like, in your opinion, how do you view the 2nd century authors who added the historical details? Do you think they did it deliberately, like for political reasons, or do you think they genuinely believed they were reconstructing lost history, especially after the post-revolt in Judea?
So I think that over time, it just becomes incredibly clear that they're just making stuff up, especially when they're writing texts that don't have anything that was around prior. So for instance, in the Gospel of John, you have the story of Jesus meeting with Nicodemus, but that's not found in any other gospel. So it's like, okay, where did you get that? Like, where did you hear that story? It wasn't found in any gospel coming up. It's not found in gospels after it. So it just kind of, it's silly. It's nonsense. So honestly, I don't want to point to nefarious purpose or some kind of deliberate attempt to trick people, like some kind of act of deception. I don't want to say that that's what's going on, but it's possible. I would be more inclined to say that these are people writing from communities that have heard the stories of Jesus, and they're mixing in with other beliefs that they have, or other like supernatural stories and things like that, that kind of get echoed and added to the story, kind of seep in through just osmosis, just having the story. So in other words, if you're around, if you are living around people who believe in Dionysus, then and Dionysus is the Greek god of wine, and so you would potentially see this Jesus character as somebody who turns water into wine, more associated with like the Dionysus type stuff. So you would hear this concept and you would maybe work that into the Jesus story. Maybe because you've heard the story repeated that way, because just like the game of telephone and stuff like that. Or it's because you're trying to put it in there. I don't know. And we don't really have much of a way to prove the intent of the authors. But what I can say is that the stories definitely do get influenced by other things. I don't know if they're aware. They're like, oh, hey, I'm going to make him like Dionysus. Or if they just heard something that sounds like Dionysus and they just kind of like someone on down the line, we don't know who, added that into the game of telephone. And so by the time it hit the author's ears, Jesus is turning water into wine like Dionysus did. And so he just writes it down. I don't know. But I can say that there are a few people who I feel like were actively trying to deceive people. I feel like Irenaeus is one of them. And Eusebius is definitely one of them. There may be some others as well, but I would say that I'd say Epiphanius is probably one of them. There's multiple people in early church history that I feel like crossed that line over from like maybe they were trying to deceive to like these people are assholes and they're making up all kinds of stuff, and they had to have known that they're making it up. But I don't think that I don't think it's a lot of them. I think it's just a few of them.
That makes sense. Thank you. And just to follow up, because I found your connection between the chaos of the 130s and the apocalyptic language of the Gospels quite interesting. And like I would say, like from your perspective as the guest, as a data scientist or a researcher, do you think the writers of the Gospels actually visited Judea after the revolt, or do you think the writings like do you think that they're writing it completely from an outside perspective in places like Rome or Syria, or using old maps
Good
and
question.
imagination?
I would
Yeah.
say that it's probably old maps and imagination, especially because like in the Gospel of Mark, they're making mistakes and stuff. However, I would say that I think over time, as you get more and more people coming out of Judea, or at that point in time, Syria, Palestina, because it gets renamed, but I would say that there's more influence coming from people who are more affiliated with that area. And so you almost get a better geography or a better understanding of that time, like over time to some extent. If that makes sense. So like the obvious mentions of like rabbis and stuff, like that's in Matthew 23, but it doesn't get mentioned until or it stops getting mentioned. Like that line about like the rabbis and stuff like that and how they dress and stuff isn't in later gospels. So like it's almost as if like Jewish culture itself, they have a better understanding of it over time, or they're more familiar with it. John, which is the last of the four canonical gospels, starts off with using some things from Philo of Alexandria, that whole like logos, like the word of God, that kind of concept. And he was a Jewish person. So I think that they're almost becoming more aware of Jewish culture as time goes on and making Jesus more and more Jewish. Matthew gives a genealogy that that skips over some generations and also includes a cursed person, Jeconiah. But then Luke comes around and corrects it later on. So over time, it's like they're becoming more. The claims are becoming more Judaized as opposed to more Greek. But you still have mistakes from people who just aren't familiar with that area because they're not being written by people that are directly Jewish or anything like that. It's just they may be influenced by more Jewish culture. So you have in John 5, talking about the Pool of Bethesda, which very clearly didn't have that layout that it's describing in 30. So it's just talking about things that are anachronistic, but that's to some extent that's not really Jewish culture really that they're getting right. They're just talking about geography, and they're just missing on that point. But yeah, I would say that over time there's more Jewish influence that kind of helps.
That makes sense. Thanks for answering me. But yeah, we're reading your book in our book club. We're nearly
Yeah,
finished,
that's awesome.
and I'll probably come up and have more questions. And I'm spreading the book, spreading the word.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I have no problem with that. I know that somebody reached out to me a long time ago. They're like, do you mind if we read your book or something like that, like in a book club, or like even if somebody just like reads it or something like that on like a YouTube or TikTok or whatever? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. It's a $3 book. You think I'm going to be upset because somebody didn't get a few people didn't get copies or something? Like, no. Like, go ahead. Like, absolutely. The main point is talking about these things. It's questioning these things and trying to figure out what can we know, what do we know about whether or not Jesus existed, and the evidence that is presented to us, does it really hold up against actual scrutiny that we would generally apply to other texts like the Odyssey or the Iliad, that kind of thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for answering me.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to looking forward to more of your work.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming up. That was Tubman. Thank you very much for coming up. Definitely a W to that. W book clubs. All right. All right. I need to get to these. $2 Canadian from Rebel Apostate that said, Jaren, our hashtag queef and savior. What? That doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't make sense. All right. $1.99 from Elope. No, Arby's. We got the queefs. Okay, I go to corner. Oh my God. All right. Well, there's that one. And then $1.99 from Hardwork 83.95 says Fartbees. Fartbees. We have the queefs. Jesus. All right. And then I've already read the one from Lenovo. Okay, look at that. Whew. I've only had to deal with this shit 24 times. This is not okay. This is Bush League. And not that Bush. And also that's not Bush. All right. We got Wesley Common. How's it going? Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm sorry if my internet's a little bad. It's been breaking up a little bit here. I hope it's all right for you.
All right. Well, if it starts to break up, just it just needs a sincere apology, maybe flowers, that kind of thing, and maybe you can kind of salvage the relationship.
Quick question for you. I talked to you a few months ago. I read your book. I'm a Christian, and I was wondering, I didn't want to get up here and kind of debate with you or anything, but do you have anybody that I can read, any scholars that are in a related field that have read your book and have been convinced by it or changed their mind based on it that I might be able to look up?
Nina Livesey, before her book came out in December of 2024, believed that Paul existed to some extent and was utilized as just like a name or whatever that people knew of whenever the Marcionites wrote. But if you look at some of her statements post-book in some of her interviews, she says that there are reasons to doubt that Paul even existed. And that's because we had a conversation. Well, I'm not going to say that I'm the only reason, or my co-author are the only reason, but we definitely helped. We had a conversation offline, well, online, but private, where we went over the stellometry. She did not come to her understanding of the Marcionite construction of the Pauline epistles in 140s through stellometry, but rather just kind of like literary analysis, that kind of thing, and just like rhetoric kind of stuff. But nevertheless, whenever we had a conversation with her, showed her a lot of the stylometric analysis and whatnot, she very adamantly wanted us to search within Acts to see if there was maybe at least some kind of proto-Acts that could have existed prior to 144 prior to 144 that showed that maybe Acts did exist to some extent to talk about Paul, for the purpose of talking about Paul and introducing Paul as a character to people so that they can later come back and say, oh, we have his letters. And when we did not find that, I could tell that there was, she wasn't thrilled. She wasn't thrilled to see that wasn't the case. But I guess here more recently, she's been a little bit more open about the idea of Paul not existing at all, in some interviews. So, yeah, I mean, that's that kind of stuff. As far as the stylometric analysis goes, I know that M. David Litva has been working. He actually reached out to us for our work in stylometry and has quoted us in a couple different cases and cited us for our explanations of things and stuff like that, and our work for the stylometric analysis.
When did your book come out?
March of 2024.
24. I mean, I'm just wondering if it's convinced any experts that did not believe it, but kind of came out publicly and said, this has convinced me otherwise.
I mean, what do you mean? Science, they don't generally do that. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you just saying, like, do you know of any scholars that come out and say, hey, like, I'm an expert on this.
Scholars in a related.
Here's one particular book that just completely changed my mind on whether or not this person was historical, and they just point to one text.
Scholars in a related field that gave a good review of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't cite it.
Can I look up a few of them?
Yeah, Chris Hansen. You can look up M. David Litva. Like, yeah. And I'm pretty sure I've told you this before. If you listen, you've ever heard it before. Chris Hansen, Hansen, and then M. David Litva, spelled Litwa.
Okay. They did not believe it before, and then they said that your book convinced them of it.
Why the fuck does that matter?
I'm just wondering if your book is convincing to scholarship. I think that's important.
Okay.
You're convincing a lot of people that aren't scholars. I'm wondering if you convinced anybody that know what they're talking about.
Sweet. Are you a scholar?
No, I'm not. I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm not a scholar.
So I guess I should only talk to scholars? Is that what you're saying? Like, I shouldn't convince anybody else?
I'm just asking if you have convinced anybody that does it for a living.
Okay. Well, nevertheless, you probably can't find a scholar who is going to tell you, I believed one particular thing and then one book came around and changed my mind on it. That's not going to happen.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Scholars don't come out and say that they changed their mind on things based
not
on
because
scholarship?
Of one particular book. Yeah, correct. Now, go ahead. If you have evidence of that, you can either email it to me, you can DM it, or you can come up here and you can present it to me. Because I don't know of any scholar who says, I did not believe in a particular person, or I believed in a particular person, and then I stopped believing in that particular person, or anything like that, because of one thing. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. So should we?
I don't give a shit. Why do I care about what you believe, man?
Jared, I think you know what I'm getting at, man.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Have a good one, man.
So wait, did you have any evidence for Jesus or Paul, or did you just kind of want to come up and jack off at the mouth?
I was just asking you if you had anybody that agreed with you that knew what they were talking about.
Okay, sweet. Yep. And the answer to that specific question is yes. They know what they're talking about, and they agree with us on our work on stylometric analysis. That's why they cite us. They wouldn't cite us if they thought that we were just bullshitters or something like that.
Okay. I will let your audience. I'll let your audience sit with that answer. Do you think that a
scholar would cite us if they disagreed with us?
If they disagreed with you,
mm-hmm.
I think that scholars.
It's a yes or no question. If a scholar disagreed with us, do you think that they would cite us?
I'm not asking about people who disagree. I'm asking about people who agree with you.
I didn't ask you who, I didn't ask you anything of
Yeah,
the sort. I'm
yeah, of
literally
course.
asking you a direct
Scholars
question.
cite
If a
cite
scholar
people they disagree with all the time.
if a scholar disagreed with us, would they cite us for their argument to help their argument?
That's that is a nonsense question, dude. That's not what I'm asking.
Okay,
It's
cool.
nothing to do
So
with what
we
I'm
have
asking.
multiple scholars that have cited our work when trying to argue for the same thing that we say in that particular citation. So if they thought that we were just like bullshitters and they just disagreed with us or something like that, or thought, hey, these guys don't know what they're talking about, then they wouldn't do that. It's not how that works. So
And that's
in
Chris
fact, one of
Hansen
those
and
scholars,
David
if you go
Littbach.
and look them up, says that we did stylometric analysis better than the Christian counterparts that came before us. So I don't know what to tell you, man. Like what you're doing is listen, what you are doing is you are setting up this particular standard that you invented. And you know that it's not going to do anything because you don't give a shit about whether or not Jesus existed or not anyways. We've had conversations. You haven't been able to present any kind of evidence that somehow just absolutely blew my fucking mind or something like that. I mean, this is not how it works. You very clearly do not care. And so you came up with an arbitrary standard, asked me about said standard, and then when I provided you something, it's still not going to change your mind. You're going to go and look and see that we've been cited by these people and it's not going to do anything. You're still going to disagree. In fact, you're probably actually going to take a look at these scholars and say they don't know what they're talking about because they agree with somebody who I don't agree with. That's probably what you're going to do.
Really...
Now, I would like to be proven wrong on this. I'd love it. I would love to be proven wrong. I'd like for you to come back and be like, hey, you know that weird arbitrary standard I came up with randomly, just pulled it out of my ass one day and decided to just shove it in your face? Yeah. I actually took a look to see if you met that standard. You met it. And you know what? I'm not a scholar, but now that I see that scholars are taking you seriously, I'm actually going to take you seriously. For the first time in the conversations that we've had, I'm going to take you seriously. When you wipe my ass all over this particular live and say, hey, maybe Jesus didn't actually exist. Maybe.
Jared,
I'd love to hear it. But until then, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and regulate you back down to the comments, and you can stay down there for a while. You can take a look at M. David Littbach. You can take a look at Chris Hansen. That's perfectly fine. I don't care, man. In fact, you know what? You can also take a look at the works of Mark Bilby. Mark Bilby emailed us, and we actually, I don't know if I've got a clip of that because, I mean, there's probably some copyright or some legal stuff in there. But the point is, we got an email from Mark Bilby, who is a digital humanities scholar, who accused us of stealing his work, of doing what's called scooping. Like having an inside person that goes into the details of what he was going to come out with a book and telling us what he was working on so that we could come out with it faster. He accused us of doing that. He sent copyright strike claims to Amazon. And Amazon told him to wipe his ass with the claims because we didn't actually like do any kind of weird copyright infringement or anything like that. But at the same time, the point is, we are accused of stealing work from actual scholars on this topic. I am not a scholar. Actual scholars, have cited us on this topic, multiple ones, multiple times. You're wanting to set some kind of level that is just not going to be attainable. It's just not. And I'm still very interested in hearing if you can find a scholar who says, hey, I believed one thing and then read one piece of work and that completely changed my mind. Completely changed my mind. I'd like to hear that because I don't know of any scholar that says that. That's ridiculous. All right. Can only hope?
I'm just going to make this statement, right, that you guys can't prove that he did not exist any more than anybody can prove that he did exist.
That's not accurate.
That is, right? How do you know Genghis Khan existed? How do you know Napoleon existed? How do you know?
I haven't
How do
looked.
you know Genghis Khan existed?
I haven't looked
How
into
do you know
Genghis Khan.
Napoleon existed? How do you know?
Because we have thousands
don't
of
know
people who are contemporary to him who write about him.
Oh, so writings. So you're basing
From
it off of writings
contemporaries?
and people's testimony. It's
Yeah.
the same thing that contemporaries.
Yep. Do you know what contemporary means?
So the same people that testified and witnessed and wrote about Jesus, they're not real either, right?
What
Just the people that you
What
say are
testimony
real.
do we have? A written testimony from somebody who says they saw Jesus?
How do you prove that he didn't exist?
I mean, I can get into that, but you asked me about like Napoleon, and then decided to try to claim that contemporary
Same
eyewitness
evidence for
testimony
those
is bad
people,
somehow.
the same evidence for Jesus. It's about people
What-
saying something or
No,
writing about it.
No, for Napoleon, we have people who met him who said, I met him. What text do we have from anybody where the author claims to have met Jesus?
There's a lot of different writings.
Like what? Name one.
Name one.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot, and you can't name one?
King James.
You think King James met Jesus?
Oh, met Jesus?
The fuck are you talking about? What do you think I said? What do you think a contemporary who met Napoleon? What was that? How on earth did you get to King James from that?
A peer. Yes, a peer that was actually present with that person.
Sweet. Where does Peter say, I saw Jesus?
I don't know, the Bible, I guess.
Okay, so you don't even know? You're just kind of pulling it out of the chocolate starfish?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I mean, I could be an asshole too. Anybody could be an asshole. It's not hard to be an asshole.
Well,
It's
that's
really
where
not.
you're getting your opinion, so makes sense.
No, I just asked how you disprove him. How do you disprove Jesus any more than
Because
we can
there are
prove?
stories. Because there are stories of the natural Jesus in the Gospels that don't line up with history. From what we know from archaeology or people who were actually there, and we actually have text saying I am here or I was there during that particular point in time. Yeah, it doesn't line up with that, and that's a problem. Like if I told you a story about somebody in the 1960s who owned an iPhone, you would know that story is bullshit, right?
Because iPhones didn't exist.
Yeah, in the 1960s at least.
But
yeah.
that we know of. How do we know that they didn't exist? Were
Are
we
you
in that
trying
time
to
frame?
make the claim that the iPhone existed before USB plugs?
All I'm saying is that if we weren't there, we have no proof besides somebody else corroborating and testifying to it. Period.
So you think that before the Apple company existed, that the iPhone existed?
All I'm saying is anything is possible. Because you don't know.
No, that's not how that
You
works.
don't know.
Literally, that's not how anything works. That's dumb as shit. Was that your argument?
No, it's not my argument. I'm not here to
Okay.
make an argument.
Well,
I'm just,
when
I'm
I
just here
tell you a
chilling,
story
bro.
about when I tell you a story about someone in the 1960s with an iPhone, you know that story is bullshit, correct?
Sure. Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
first instinctive reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
To think it's
Not
bullshit.
just the first instinct and reaction. It's literally true. Apple isn't a company then. That doesn't make sense.
I'm just here to have fun, man. It ain't no big deal. I'm just
No
picking
worries.
at you guys. I'm just
No
wondering
worries.
what's the benefit
Do you
of
think that
disproving
Steve
Jesus?
Jobs came out with the iPhone sometime before he was 15?
No, I'm not
Yeah,
stupid.
well,
I'm not
unfortunately,
stupid.
it's pretty clear to the 300 people watching on TikTok and the about 200 people on YouTube that you are very stupid. Do you have any evidence for Jesus, or would you like to keep going down this anachronistic road where I show you that there are elements of the story that don't line up with
Keep on
history?
making me look stupid so you can look good and you can keep on getting more views and be very popular here. That's what you want, right?
No, I mean, you can leave at any point in time. It's fine with me. We'll
I
just
know.
go to the next person.
I know. You guys can drop me and go to the next person. I'm not here for anything
Sounds
beneficial
good.
to anybody.
All right. We go on to the next person. Oh, well, JJ was here and then decided to leave really fast. I don't know what happened there. The Archangel, what's going on?
I'm gonna enjoy this, bro. I'm gonna enjoy this. No, I'm not trolling, bro. All right, let's get to it. So, actually, I want you to explain me before I talk. I want you to explain me before I talk here.
Uh-huh.
What is the because I want to be able to understand what is the evidence that Jesus Christ and Saint Paul the Apostle and thus all these figures did not exist in human history.
The natural Jesus and Paul as presented by the New Testament do not line up with what we know about the first century from an archaeological, geographical, and contemporary standpoint.
Yeah, you talk like a computer. Damn, man. Shit. So they don't match up. Wait, so why don't they match up, though?
Because there's historical claims and claims about geography that don't line up. That's what I'm talking about.
Give one example, yeah.
Let's see. Synagogues in Jerusalem prior to the destruction of the temple. A synagogue is where you go if you can't make it to the temple, and the temple that is there in Jerusalem is not destroyed until 70, which would be 40 years after Jesus supposedly dies, and about 6 years after Paul supposedly dies. But in Acts of the Apostles, Paul apparently goes to multiple synagogues and the temple in Jerusalem, which doesn't make any sense. And Jesus talks about how, or in the Gospels, it talks about how there was a person who talked to Jesus who built one of the synagogues in Jerusalem.
Yeah, I think I remember that. But I don't see how this is evidence again. I mean, I understand.
That would mean that the story doesn't make any sense in history.
Oh, run that back to me again, because I ain't quite understand you.
Well, the first the first synagogues in Jerusalem show up post 70, after the temple is destroyed. Because after the temple is destroyed, that's when you would go to a synagogue. So if synagogues are talked about prior to that, then that's a problem.
And this is somehow evidence against these two people.
That's how that works. Yep.
You do realize this is from thousands of years ago, just because you have these things show up after these things.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense in the story. Yeah, just like an iPhone, the first time we get an iPhone is in 2008, right? Not to freak anybody out, but that was almost 20 years ago that we got,
it was.
that we got that. So I get that that was some time ago, but if I also made a claim that somebody in the 1960s had an iPhone, you would know that that story's bullshit. Right?
You ain't got no evidence to it. Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, that I don't see this. I see with the iPhone example, yeah.
Yeah. So
bullshit,
likewise, if we
see it
have
with
something
Jesus.
written about in the story of Jesus that doesn't show up for another 40 years, just like the iPhone in the 1960s didn't show up until another 40 years later, you would know that that story's bullshit. That's how that works.
No.
Yeah.
Synagogue showing up after Jesus does not disprove his existence.
So how does Jesus interact with a synagogue 40 years before there were synagogues there?
Synagogues have been around since the Jewish people have founded their religion, since God had founded that religion.
Yeah, no, you said multiple things in there that were dumb, but not in
What are you
Jerusalem.
talking about? Like, Jerusalem was destroyed, as you said.
In 70, 40 years after Jesus died, supposedly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense that he is going to places that don't show up until 40 years later.
Because it was destroyed, wasn't it?
40 years later.
Yeah, in 70 AD.
Yep. So how was Jesus interacting with something from 70 and 30?
That's before the Romans destroyed it. I don't get it.
40 years before. So how's he interacting with that?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. That's before the Romans destroyed it. So
Yeah.
that's when they were around.
Man, I don't think that your elevator
I'm
stops on all
not
the
getting
floors.
it here, bro. No, I'm sorry. I'm not getting it. That's literally before the Romans destroyed it.
Yeah, dude. And what did they destroy?
The temple and the city.
And
They
then
ransacked the city.
after the temple is destroyed, then we end up with synagogues. So how does Jesus interact with synagogues 40 years before the temple is destroyed to make way for synagogues?
Because that's before the event. Yeah, I don't think you're getting it. That's before the event. That's before the temple.
Yeah, so
and
how is that
Jerusalem was
possible?
messed up.
Yep. And
This is
synagogues
before
don't
the
show up
destruction.
until after the temple is destroyed.
Okay, I'm not going to understand that. Let's move on to something else. Okay, what evidence do you have that Paul didn't exist?
Synagogues, man. In Acts, it says that he went to multiple synagogues and the temple in Jerusalem. And again, synagogues don't show up until the temple is destroyed in 70, which would be after Paul dies.
there any other evidence?
Do you need anything else?
No, I just want to know if there's any
Like,
other
your
evidence.
lack of understanding about something is not a valid argument against it. Like, I get
Yeah, I
that you
understand,
don't
but
understand how time works, but I mean,
no, I'm saying
that's
like
not a valid argument, like, against what I'm saying.
you have any other evidence to disprove Paul? I just want to know.
Yeah, Paul's not even a fucking name. It's a diminutive. It means the small one. It's not even a name. That's why he gets a real name in Acts, which was written in the middle of the 2nd century. Also, there's nothing in the Pauline epistles that even dates to the 1st century. And I understand I'm using the word century, and that's a concept of time, and I understand that you have a tenuous grasp on what time is, so I feel like I'm probably talking to like a goat, or like, I don't know, some kind of weird brain that's filled with nothing but like oatmeal and dead batteries, but I at the same time, I'm trying my best to have a conversation with you.
He's maybe you don't have any evidence, physical evidence of the epistles dating back to the 1st century
I haven't
because this was
mentioned that at
thousands
all,
of years
actually.
ago.
Yeah,
Some
I
things,
haven't
most
mentioned that at all.
things, but most things from thousands of years ago
Mhm.
are going to be lost.
Okay, so well,
They're
then
gonna
what
be
convinced
gone.
you that it actually happened then?
The experiences. Oh, you mean in Christianity in general,
Nope.
or just these specific people?
I'm specifically talking about these people walking around in Judea 2,000 years ago.
Oh, well, the experiences of people now and the people thousands of years ago.
Cool. Well, you just said that we don't have any evidence from 2,000 years ago, so I'm not really sure how that helps. And your
When I said-
experience today doesn't have anything to do with 2,000 years ago. You weren't alive 2,000 years ago. Unless you're an archaeologist or a scientist, I have no idea why it would even matter.
You can't. No, what I mean by that is that Jesus Christ, there's much evidence that Jesus Christ is the Son of God.
Cool.
You
There's
can't
no
refute
evidence
that.
that he even existed. Give me evidence he existed, and we'll talk about whether or not he was the Son of God.
You do realize Jesus Christ has been the most refuted and hated person throughout human history. So if there
Sounds good,
there
man.
would,
What's the evidence he existed? I didn't
I'm
ask about
saying
whether or
that
not he was hated
no,
or
no, I'm
loved.
saying that because they're gonna try to probably destroy evidence that he existed.
Who is they?
The Jews, anybody that hated him.
Oh, okay. So you're like racist as well as stupid?
That doesn't. I'm not a Jew. I don't care. Listen, this is
I
their.
know.
This
That's
this
what
was
makes you racist.
this was their problem with their own Messiah, of whom they killed.
Yeah, there's
And they
no evidence
probably
that he did.
destroyed
Give me
evidence.
give me evidence that he
There
existed, and then we'll
probably
talk
was
about who
evidence.
unalived him.
There probably was very much evidence, in the Jews
There
or other
probably
people
was,
probably
and we just don't
destroyed
have
it.
it anymore. And that's your argument?
Everything is not gonna stay forever. Some things are finite. What are you
Cool.
talking about?
So you're saying your argument is something we don't have?
Yeah, it could be some. Some things we don't have of historical figures. That's not how that works.
Yeah, it kind of is. Anyways, it's very clear to me that your brain is filled with dinosaur egg, oatmeal, and George Bush paintings. So we're going to go ahead and move on to somebody else. Thanks for coming up, man. All right, really fast. Super chat over there. $1.99 from Elope Nope says the Christians crash outs are just chef's kiss. And then $1.99 from Tracy, formerly Yanto, says queef ha. Monsters. And then we got $1.99 from Jim says, are queefs more possible than CBJ? More popular than CBJ? Yes, they are. And then $1.99 from Elope Nope says Christians experience is better than logic. Yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, that's added to the list. Yeah. Added to the list of Jeranisms. Nice. Yeah, it was like talking to a potted plant. Yeah. That's how that works. I don't understand it either, AZ Mike. I don't understand it. Is there an age limit on Super Chats? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe. Hopefully YouTube puts something in there. Honestly don't know. Potted plants are smart. Oh my god, $2 from $2 Everlasting Godstopper says Joe Queefus. Oh my god. Jesus Christ, guys, we're up to 27 mentions. That's insane. Like that's come on. $9.99 from Sir Gamelot said, just found out you can get super chats. Hey, yeah, fuck yeah. Say hi to your mom for me. There we go. There we go. There's a normal one that just talks about moms. Can we go back to just talking about moms? Oh my God. Oh my God. This show used to be something. Used to mean something. Say hi to your mom for me. All right. Let's see. Jesus Christ. $5 from Squigglin in it says, if Jesus Christ didn't exist, did Julius Queefer exist? It's not even that clever. I don't even understand anymore. Like I think you just. All right. These are the days of our lives. You stopped hating us. That's why. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? All right. We got somebody coming up here who's at least, got his head on straight somewhere. I don't know.
Somewhere, sometimes, depending on the day.
Sometimes. It wasn't hard today, Doug.
What?
Oh, that's right. You're Norse pagan, but not Norwegian.
I'm not. I'm not theistic. I don't believe the gods actually exist.
What the hell? I thought you were like Norse or something.
Yes. I'm a. That's a different. Do you really want me to go into atheo-paganism on this live? I'll do it if you want me to. But
yeah, it's something. I don't know. It has something to do with paganism, and I thought that you believed in Odin and Thor and shit. My bad. I got you mixed up with another person who was something non-Christian. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something that makes Jesus cry.
Yes. I still do that. Yes. That is still something I do.
Anyways. What you got for us? Fenrison. It's just Fen.
It's fine. Just Fen.
I want to say your real name, but I can't because, but your real name's a real fucking name. And I could say that.
Real name's a real basic ass name. Yeah.
But at least I know it.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But anyways, what you got for us?
Well, you told me to come back.
Yes.
So I came back. Just to reiterate my commentary last time, I think that the cultural practice of making people divine seemed to be very prevalent during that day, especially when they were doing magical quote unquote shit around the lands.
Mm-hmm.
And also, my other part of my argument, just to remind you, was when the Romans or the pagans who were commenting or engaging with the rise of Christianity during the time, we don't see anybody go, wait a minute, this guy never existed. We have no idea. Who is this dude you're talking about? We don't ever see that occurring. And I'm wondering what your responses to that is.
Wait, that was your argument?
Yeah. When last time I was here and you told me to come back and you would explain it deeper.
The idea that like we don't see the Romans say this person didn't exist, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so like they'll comment on like the religion and the practice, and they'll go in and say, and we have, people making philosophical arguments against Christianity, but we don't ever see like anyone go in and go, where was this dude? We never did this. We never put him up on a cross. Like the Romans didn't like put anything out that would state that they believe this guy didn't exist. And I think that would be something that we would see if they were seeing a cult start to grow, blaming the Romans for the unaliving of Jesus. They'd be like, who are you talking about?
Right. So that's why it's so important to take a look at like what my co-author and I, like what we've put together in regards to the historians who are said to have claimed that Jesus was crucified. Like really just Josephus and Tacitus would be the only ones. Those were interpolated into, which means that when other people are talking about Christians, they don't mention a Jesus along with it. They just kind of mention the religion itself, and maybe like a deity that they worship, but they don't mention anything about how they crucified anybody. So the first time that we get any mention outside of Christianity about Jesus specifically and about him being crucified is from somebody who wasn't even Roman. He was Lucian of Samosata. He wrote in Syriac quite a bit. So like he's just not a like he's just a later guy who just talks about he's just a later guy who just talks about Christianity and what they believe. We don't really have a lot of Romans, like specifically like Roman government officials or anything like that, that really talk too much about Jesus until well after the stories were already floating around, like in the second century, the mid-second century. And by that point, they wouldn't really have much of an idea as to whether or not Jesus was actually a real person. Because, I mean, the way that people interacted with other religions back then is, especially if there's quite a bit of people who are saying one thing, you don't say that that's not a real thing. You just kind of interact with the theology as opposed to the actual historiography
that's a
of
good
it.
point. Yeah.
So by the time that Roman emperors would have heard explicitly about Jesus, like being crucified and stuff, I mean, there'd be a ton of people talking about it. So, I mean, unless they just wanted to really work on digging into early first century Judea history, they wouldn't really have much of a way to even disprove it if they wanted to.
Right. And I haven't heard your specific arguments about the I'm bad with names. The Septuagint, doesn't the Septuagint mention Jesus? Why do you
No,
think
that'd be the Talmud?
The Talmud.
Yeah.
Why did the Jewish people even like say? Because I know when was that written again?
The Babylonian Talmud, not the Jerusalem Talmud, because the Jerusalem Talmud doesn't say anything about Jesus. But the Babylonian Talmud is written between the 3rd to 6th century.
Why do you think that they put in that? Yeah, he did exist, and we stoned him. Like,
Yeah.
why would they have done that?
So they're probably just trying to convince Jewish people to not go believe that stuff. They also say that he's boiling in liquid shit. Like,
well, yeah, because
yeah. So it's very clearly an attack against Christianity than really anything else. But the most damning part of that is how they address him. They say Jesus the Nazarene, but interestingly enough, nowhere in the Mishnah, either Talmud, Jerusalem or Babylonian, nowhere in any Jewish writings or anything like that, nowhere in the Old Testament, Apocrypha, nothing. Nowhere do they mention Nazareth, ever. Josephus doesn't even mention it, and he's from Galilee. Writes multiple books. So it's very telling that they not only call Jesus the Nazarene, but they also call the Christians Nazarenes. That's really weird. So they're getting their idea of Jesus from the Gospels as opposed to remembering someone from a town, because very clearly if they're calling the Christians Nazarenes and they're calling Jesus a Nazarene, and if that means someone from Nazareth and they never mention Nazareth, it seems really weird. So they're very clearly not remembering like a story where they had a trial of this guy. They're just attacking Christianity after Christianity has already made the claims. So they're going against what the Gospels are saying as opposed to saying, here's the real story. Like they are trying to say this is the real story, if that makes sense, but they're pulling their information from the Gospels as opposed to pulling it from like a real first century account or something like that.
Okay. That just seems weird that they would like, because that
it's really late. I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible that this was written after Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. It's written sometime between the 3rd to 6th century, and Christianity becomes the official religion by the end of the 4th. So, I mean, there's like 200 years to play with, potentially after 200 years within this date range fall after Christianity becomes the official religion of the entire empire. So, I mean, at that point, are you talking about Jesus because you've heard of the story or because you already knew the story and you're remembering it?
Right. Do you know anything about, because I don't, how the Talmud is put together? Is this something that is like a group work, or is it just, oh, well, we have this one guy writing about it and we're going to stick with him?
No, it's just patchwork. It's
Okay.
it's so cyber deconstruction. If you're not familiar,
Yeah, I know cyber.
Oh, okay, cool. So he calls it Rabbi Reddit because basically people just kind of pop in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna kind of give my quick take on this," and then just pop out. It's like a forum, if you will. It's like a written forum where people just make comments.
Okay, so there's no like, oh yeah, we're going to keep this. It just kind of gets put in and nobody.
There's no
interested.
citation, nothing. It just sometime between the 3rd and 6th century, it gets put into a text, and there you go.
All right. Okay, I did not know that's how that worked. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
well,
odd for a religious book to be like, oh, this one guy said it. Okay, well, we're gonna put it in.
Well, I mean, it's not. So the Talmud, for the most part, yeah, it's a religious book, but it's not. It's more just trying to explain like the current beliefs and stuff like that. The Talmud is kind of trying to explain from a rabbinic perspective their religion and their beliefs and their practices and stuff like that to people who are reading it, that kind of thing, more or less to other rabbis. But in this particular case, it's very clearly like this random polemic against Christianity. And it even uses terminology that would be indicative of them writing in response to Christianity, as opposed to writing about someone because they remembered this thing that happened in 30 that, like, I guess they presided over a trial over 40 years before their documents would have probably been destroyed anyways. So I don't really know how it would last that long. If you really think about it, I don't know how the story would have made it that far. I mean, it's such a random story. Like if Jesus was a real person and he was just the bastard son of an affair, like it seems odd that like they would have remembered that story for so long, unless they were intentionally writing against a religion and it was like religiously motivated as to why you put it in there as opposed to anything else. And then once you factor that in, how religiously motivated was it? Could it be so religiously motivated that it is just simply a response to the religion as opposed to an actual historical thing? And then you look at the actual terminology used and it becomes more of a response.
Yeah, I actually, just thinking back, I do like your response to my first point about Romans going in and going, who is this guy? Because you're right, the Romans, even against their enemies, weren't just like, your gods are false. They usually did something like, well, you're what you call blah 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 is actually Hermes.
Yeah,
you just got it wrong, right? Yeah, so that's a good point.
They would just kind of incorporate things, or trying to say, hey, like you already kind of believe in this. Why don't you believe in this? Like that kind of thing. Like they just kind of worked it in, kind of shoehorned it in somehow. Because the Romans were actually like, as barbaric as they were actually kind of smart in the sense that they would kind of say, hey, look, we've beat you guys in battle. So go ahead and just accept all of our gods and stuff like that. You can even kind of keep your own traditions to some extent, as long as you also recognize ours, and just understand that you are subject to Rome, and we'll get along peacefully. Like that's kind of what they did, if you will. And so
the Catholics learned that pretty quick. They were like, yeah, you can have your own practices as long as Jesus is the only God, but you can do your own rituals. Yeah.
The only difference is the Roman Catholics, or the Catholics, they ended up kind of going back on their word later on. Like when they showed up, like one of these stories. So my wife, she's from Ecuador. And some of the history of Ecuador is pretty wild, where you have like the Inca over there. They spoke a language that's still sort of kind of around today, but it's almost extinct. It's called Quechua. And Quechua, that language is actually what they translated the Bible into to preach it to these different people. But they started to see that like there were people who would accept it, but they were still also holding on to their traditional beliefs. So they would it was like this weird thing where they also believed Jesus as well as some of their other like previous gods. So the Catholics just decided, fuck it, we're not going to translate it into Quechua anymore. We're just going to force you to learn Spanish, that kind of thing. So
the Norse did the same thing with Jesus. They incorporated Yahweh and Jesus into their pantheon during their colonization of England for a short time.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, a lot of this like colonization and then just taking over an area and everything like that, you just kind of see different ideas being thrown around to how to subjugate these people to this new rule, to their new masters, if you will. So, I mean, that's how it works. But a lot of that, almost never do we have within the Roman Empire someone showing up and saying, "Hey, we beat you, and also your God doesn't exist." Like,
right. Yeah,
like
it's a good point. Yeah.
So they approached it, and even the Jewish people, believe it or not, Josephus at the beginning of Antiquities of the Jews, he actually talks about Hercules as if he's a real person. He just says this is what the Greeks believe, but like he doesn't say anything about like hey, like this is not a real thing or anything. He just says, oh hey, this is Hercules. This is some of his men he fought alongside. This is his son. This is his father-in-law, his wife.
29 men lovers. Yeah.
So I mean, but that's just kind of what it is. You just kind of talk about it because it's like, well, it's whatever. Back then, atheism was a pretty wild charge that was levied against quite a bit of people. But atheism wasn't just the idea that no gods existed. It was the idea
monotheism as well.
Yeah, even monotheism was considered it because which makes sense. You're saying there is no God to multiple gods. In fact, monotheism is just about as close as you can get to atheism without atheism. I mean, you're straight up saying, hey, all these different gods that you believe in, not even close. Like, I'm going to say, nope. Like,
yep.
That's insane. But, I mean, I would simply say that by the time that a lot of people heard about Christianity, including or especially people higher up within the Roman Empire, and explicitly hearing about Jesus, by the time they heard about that, it was so far late that they didn't really have much of a way to confirm if that was even a real story or not.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we had the convo.
Yeah.
Took me a while to come back, but
yeah. When are you going live again?
Well, tonight is my D&D game. So tonight, 10:45. Yep, tonight 10:45 Eastern Standard Time is my D&D game. I run it on TikTok. Mostly all of what?
Did you say 10:45 Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
What a random ass time in a random ass time zone. What the hell?
No, Eastern Standard Time is the standard time zone for the United States. Nope. Yeah. I will not take this.
In prison, like Central is literally central to how Americans need to view life.
No, gross.
That's how that works. Okay, no, can we at least agree the Mountain Standard Time is garbage for garbage people?
We can.
Okay. All right. There we go.
So 10:45 Eastern Standard Time PM, D&D game with a lot of fellow deconstructionists. Bree is a supporting character. She at least helps with moderation. We have Nicholas Graves. We have Kiara Wright and Rune helping DM. We have lots of folks that you probably know. Morgan Le Fay, for example, is also playing in that game. Thrail is playing in that game.
Thrail?
Yeah, Thrail plays in my game.
Off.
Yeah, true. Anyway, so yeah, 10:45. Love to see you guys there.
All right. 10:45, 9:45 Central Time tonight. Check out Finn's D&D, where I assume that he's wait, you're the not the moderator.
Dungeon Master, yes.
Dungeon Master, that is. Yeah, that's it. Dungeon Master. He's a Dungeon Master.
In and out of the game.
Oh, okay. So when you're in the game, you're a wolf, right? Like I assume you're a wolf, right? Like a wolf man kind of thing.
I mean, I have that picture of me in my PFP is a picture of me in my regalia. Yeah. Here, I'll make it bigger for you. Give me a
I
second.
can understand. Yeah, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, he's got like a.
There you go.
I guess is that like that's actually you yourself?
That's
Oh,
me.
holy shit! That
Here,
is
I'll get a colorized photo. 1 second.
that is very ornate.
It cost me a pretty penny, I will say. And it's how I go to like various things across the lands. God, where's the picture? There it
Across
is.
the lands.
There you go. That's me in color, fully. There you go.
Dear God. Well, I'm just gonna say that if somebody ever showed up, like, like on the shores of my country, dressed like that, I would probably surrender immediately. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what you want, but yeah, you can have it. I don't know what appeases the wolf god that just showed up, but there you go. That's how that works. Quetzalcoatl ain't got shit on the wolf god. What?
They made a D&D character for you?
For me?
Apparently, Elizabeth says we've already made a D&D character.
Oh. Oh. No. That why? That's I feel like maybe if it's done in good taste, then we'll be good.
Well, next campaign I'll invite you. How's that?
I'm terrified. Also, I've never done D&D. I can barely
That's the
spell
whole
it.
point. Part of the game is teaching people how to play and also run a game. That's the whole point, is education on how to play it. It's easy.
The mythicism, oath of mythicism paladin. I don't even know what that means. High likelihood of being nude. What? What? Anyways.
Anyway,
I
don't want to take over your live. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Christ before Jesus. Love you, man.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Finn. Go check him out. 10:45 Eastern tonight. D&D. Check it out. Check it out. There's going to be a lot of people there. It sounds like. Sounds like there's going to be quite a few people. You got Morgan Le Fay, you got Thrail, who I got the sound effect here from.
Fuck off.
Yeah, there it is. And then we've got, we also have Bree, I guess, is going to be there as well. Bree, I'm pretty sure I got the sound, yeah. Oh, yes, yes. Those are actually Bree's words. She was saying, show up tonight at Finn's Live at 10:45 Eastern. Now, your view on Eastern versus Central, Bree? That's what I thought. Okay, wanted to get to some super chats really fast. Let's see here. Oh my God, $1.99 from the Prototypes. Say hi to your queef for me. Jesus Christ. All right, and then $2 from Zeno Lapudre says, this is for Aaron Bofa. I like that one. That actually makes sense, and it doesn't say the Q word, so we're good to go there.
You done messed up, Aaron!
All right. Marv34001, $4.99, 99 cents says, Theodos inscription is direct evidence of synagogues in Jerusalem, correct? So that would not be anachronistic. Let me know if you've heard of it. Yes, I have heard of it. The Theodotus inscription actually lines up paleographically with writings from Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century, which makes sense because he's the one to actually banish these people out to the area. There are no Jewish names on the inscription, which is very strange. In fact, there's a Latin name on there, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, it is for like a hostel where people would actually stay while they were there in town. So it would make more sense that this was something that was set up for people who were coming back for the Passover, which is the only time that Emperor Hadrian would even allow for Jewish people to come back to Syria, Palestina, which was formerly Judea. So it makes sense that this would be something from the 2nd century and not prior to 70. Wouldn't really make a lot of sense. It was also not found in, it was found in like a hole, and there wasn't anything around it that was actually dated to that time. They just kind of said, hey, like it sort of kind of matches that time, and it's kind of close to Jerusalem, so we'll just take it. It's pretty terrible, actually. And Jake in the chat actually provided a map. I don't know if I can pull it up too quickly here. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I can. But he actually provided a map of where it was found. It's actually found not in a great location, kind of far away from the rest of Jerusalem. But there's, thank you very much for bringing it up. But the Theodotus inscription, lots of times, is used by apologists to say this is evidence of synagogues prior to 70, but the inscription itself does not date really at all prior to 70, and actually dates quite a bit afterwards to a point in time which would make a lot more sense. But anyways. Did what with the hole? They found something in a hole. That's how it is. Jake says it was found outside the city walls in City of David. Yeah, so it's outside of it. Even if it was something that dated prior, there's no real evidence that it's explicitly for Jerusalem. So yeah, the Theodotus inscription is something that a lot of apologists will stand on. Kind of like P52, they latch on to the first findings of it or the first assumptions of it, and then just run with it. They try to say that that's good evidence for something. Moving on here. We then have $2 from That Real Riverside Fool. Says, that one wasn't too bad because at least had the sound of the song. Anyways, $5 there from 3Pal. Thank you very much. Says, I think I've figured out the Q source. Oh my God. Is it the queef source? I actually thought that was going to be a legitimate thing. Is it the queef source? Oh my God. All right. Well, there it is. Okay. Yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. $1.99 there from Eloping Up says, Eastern time zone is the goat. Suck it. All right. Well, no. Oh my. Yeah, no. No. And twice on Sunday. Okay. The people are only following the rules. Yeah. I don't. Most of these, by the way, are just people that have said it multiple times in their messages. I would prefer that it stop and we get back to normal conversations, because now at this point, the viewership on YouTube is plummeted because of this. Ridiculous. All right. So I thought it was Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith at first. No. It was. I think it's Zeppelin. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's Zeppelin. Squeeze my lemon. Okay. All right. All right. So it is now 3:40. Usually I hop off about 3. I think it's about time to go ahead and peace out to you beautiful people here, and some of you ugly people as well. Let's see. Oh my God. And still $1.99 for the prototype, says the queef tax. All right. Stop it. Look, this is ridiculous. We have now had 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 32 times. Look, guys. Look at this. This is not... I'm gonna... No. 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 We've got to... No. All right. No, it's not beautiful. It's not. It's not. It not at all. Oh, Andrew says peace out. Thank you. All right. Yeah. All right.
That's no good.
Thank you to anybody and everybody who's stuck around longer than 30 seconds. 35-second gang, rise up. I am going to see you guys around. Obviously, it is Monday. I will see you tomorrow at about 9:30 a.m. Central. And trying to think if there's anything else. I know that, so some quick little updates. So Matthew and I put out a request to get some questions answered, and we have a ton of questions. We are probably going to take some time to answer those questions here before too terribly long and put up some videos there for those, because we're opening it up to questions that aren't even really related to stellometry or related to mythicism or anything. So we got some interesting questions. Very interesting ones from Aaron, I will say. But there are definitely some decent questions, like Elizabeth Heretics actually came out with some good questions, so thank you. Anyways. Thank you very much for hanging around here. Peace out, Girl Scout. I'm gonna be down for some Thin Mints, and I have to add one more of these damn things. Because $2 there from that Riverside Foo says, this is the rod of God, by the way. I guess you changed your name on YouTube. Keep queefing on. Fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Can't stand this shit anymore. All right. Like, I mean, like, I thank you, but, like, god damn. Like, there's got to be some other way that we can somehow. Anyways. Yeah, that's ridiculous. All right, I will see you guys later. Peace out, Girl Scout. We'll be down for some Thin Mints. And over there on YouTube, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Obviously, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the mods and everybody working over there. And I apologize again to your crazy ex-girlfriend. I didn't know that message was directed towards you. I just thought it was. It didn't make. It was weird. But thank you very much for swinging by. You've been you, and you have been